Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the English broadcast of the Chinese LPL. We are still live from the Shanghai Battle Arena in the Super Braum Mall. I'm Matthew Stewart, as I said. Joining me is Indiana Frosker in black. We kicked Pulse off because he was complaining about always being on the desk with you, so decided to put me in.
I see.
And you were not happy with Pulse and you always being there. So
nah, it's fine. I have more fun with you anyway.
We're about to get into our second match of today, and it's going to be the online retail store war, or the e-commerce war, as Clement has mentioned. Jindong Gaming taking on Suning Gaming.
And just to give kind of our Western viewers an example of kind of what this means, imagine if Amazon and eBay both had teams in the NALCS and decided to face each other. That's effectively what this means.
I mean, it's like best Amazon, essentially. Like, we order stuff from Jindong and it comes like the next day. Our entire house is kind of like outfitted with everything there, all our electrical supplies coming from Suning. So this is a big match between the two teams, and it's a top of the table clash at that.
Yeah, and that's the really important thing. It's the fact that whoever wins this will actually be in top of the Eastern Conference. So Rogue Warriors RNG, bottom of the table clash. Here comes the actual decider match of who will be king of the East. And right now, both these teams are on the rise.
They certainly are. At the top of the table currently sits Jindong Gaming. They are now 3-1. Suning are 2-1, just behind IG. This gives them a chance to propel straight to first place because IG has the head-to-head. Sorry, IG does not have the head-to-head with Jindong. And this one will put them in that first spot.
And it's about kind of focusing on who are the key players on these two rosters because they are relatively unknown, and we're going to do our featured matchup for the top laner. So it's Zoom versus XiaoAL. Now, XiaoAL, Suning's top laner, EDG was trying to poach him, trying to get him up into their top lane. Suning managed to bring hold of him, and Zoom is kind of the newcomer. Again, this new blood rookie player coming into the LPL, and both of them have been nothing short of explosive.
They certainly have been. We've seen a lot from Zoom, we've seen a lot from XiaoAL, and some really interesting picks in the top lane. We know that Vladimir's up there, we know that Ornn's up there, but Camille coming back into the meta. We have Jax being played as well.
Yeah, we're not your normal LCS regions. We're not all about the tanks up here. We do like to play those fighters, and it does start with XiaoAL. Camille, for a long time in the LPL, was 100% pick or ban, flexed into the jungle, just like we've seen Blank kind of do in the LCK. Zoom is a bit more meta standard, but you definitely know that he will reach out and start grabbing some of those weird picks.
He certainly will. We've seen a lot of those picks come into play, not only these two teams, but even the match before. And now I really want to talk about the styles of these two teams, so to speak, because in the last match we saw a very fight-heavy game, as we normally see in the LPL. But these two teams, they will definitely be out for blood, especially what's at stake.
Yeah, you thought that it was crazy in series number 1, but it's going to be even crazier as we take a look at the lineups. JD, Zoom, Clid, Yagao, Loken, and Mao. Meanwhile, Suning, it's XiaoAL, Tian, Knight, Fury, and Yoon. Now, Suning do have two different junglers, Hacker and Tian. They do kind of like to cycle them in and rotate, try to find the best fit. I personally believe that this is the best iteration of Suning's roster.
And we've seen Hacker step in from time to time, but normally it's going to be Tian that starts them off, and that's what they're going to do here today against Jindong Gaming. Another player that we really have to look towards as well is going to be Knight in the mid lane. He's been an up-and-coming mid laner for them and has looked strong, relatively strong at the start of the split, but still makes small mistakes from time to time.
So the LSPL is the secondary league underneath the LPL. It's now called the LDL, the League Development League, and Knight has kind of been bouncing around there for far too long. Formerly of Young Miracles, finally gets his shot in the LPL. He's more of a control mage, but known for heavy roaming, which usually you don't see those two factors go together. Normally control mages kind of hunker down and sit tight in the mid lane. Knight likes to get involved.
Yeah, but Knight is the jack of all trades, so to speak, in that match. But first, before we get into this next match, let's actually have a look and have a listen in to what Knight has to say.
大家好，我是 SNG 中的 Knight， 这是我第一次来打 LPL， 我会想在赛场上证明自己，希望大家多支持我，关注一下我们战队。京东这支队伍还是蛮强的吧，个人能力都不错，他们在德玛西亚杯也取得了不错的成绩。如果我们和他们交手的话，我感觉我们线上还是要压制他们才好打吧。
Cheers, Fish. And it's interesting to hear from Knight there as well, because when you look at these two mid-lane matchups, it's very much centered around them. You know, these are very new guys coming into the rosters, trying to shore up a lot of the weaknesses of these teams.
Yeah, they're very similar teams, both of them e-commerce giants, and both of them starting to look for the new mid laners in the LSPL to kind of shore up their teams. And so far, oh man, both of these mid laners have been so explosive. We have Yagao on one side, you know, Baby Faker, names being thrown around, really showing up 3-1. And you also have Knight, who is this counter pick genius. His team always holds that counter pick for him, and he's been so good on champions like LeBlanc, like the Zoe, and even like Kha'ZIx.
Yeah, and they've done more than shore up their liners, because right now JD Gaming are looking incredibly good. They're at the top of the rankings right now, and it looks like they're pretty much unstoppable against everyone else in their group. And to be honest, JD, you weren't expecting that from them whatsoever, especially when you have Doinby leaving the roster. We just saw him in the last game. He's actually doing very well for himself as well on top of that. But, you know, you didn't expect JD to really pull together using, like, the backbone of Clid, for example.
Exactly, and we are seeing the stars kind of emerge here. Clid, as you mentioned, I think is going to be the most important person in this matchup. The last time we saw SNG play a game, they had to sub out Tian because Tian was 3 levels behind Flawless. Flawless's Lee Sin absolutely kicked his face in. And in this matchup, we might see similar things. You know, the other good Lee Sin in the LPL is Clid.
It feels like Doinby has just rubbed off on you, Clement, after that interview. He's starting to just be like super enthusiastic, and it's like he's gonna smash his face in. And to be honest, I do agree with you coming into this matchup. Like, this could be very, very difficult for Tian to survive.
Exactly, and they did have to sub in Hacker, and what happened was not much really had changed. So Hacker still got his face kicked in once more, and I'm just not sure how they're going to hold this mid-jungle duo together. I kind of feel like the dynamic Suning might want to opt in for is to let Jingdong kind of pick their mid lane beforehand and see if they can carry off Knight's counter picks.
Yeah, because Suning, when you have a game with them, especially against JD as well, I feel like we're going to see like a lot of blood. Like, we look at all this analysis, look at all this macro, then we get into a game and people are just going to be dying left, right, and center. That's honestly how I predict this game to go, Clement.
Here we go into the ban picks. Azir banned out, so this is very interesting. Knight is actually the only mid lane player in the LPL to not pick the Azir. Like, he's always waiting on his counters, and Azir is more of like a first pick, strong pick. Like, it's a more power pick centered.
That has been taken away alongside Kog'Maw and Lee Sin for Suning, so if that's hilarious going up against Clid as well. It feels like they've just been triggered from watching Flawless play, and they were like, well, we're also against another Lee Sin god, so let's just take that off the board.
Ooh, this is very interesting. So Zoe, although a very strong pick, it does have a lot of counters. We can see that Jingdong definitely anticipated the possibility of a LeBlanc coming out, take that away, but there's also Caston on the roster that can go very well into Zoe as well.
Yeah, just to recap some of the bans from JD, they had Camille, Jarvan, and LeBlanc, and then first pick Zoe on top of that. So Suning gonna counter here with the Sejuani in the jungle and a Braum for support.
So Suning here, slowing down the ban picks. A huge point we have to mention is that we're not sure about Fury's champion pool in the current batch. It's been a while since we've seen them play. And so far, Fury's only picked Kalista and Ezreal. We're not sure if they are on this fast push hype train or not.
I'll have to see as these picks and bans continue to evolve. But Varus actually going to be the pickup here by Loken into the bottom side.
Varus, just a strong pick in general, the highest win rate in the LPL among AD carries right now. We can see on the screen 67%. Basically doesn't have a bad matchup. He can go into the Caitlyn pretty well as well.
Yeah, there's going to be Ornn for top lane, you'd have to assume. Could also flex into the bottom lane as well for Mao.
Mao definitely could pick that champion up as well. So we've been seeing a lot of blue side teams do this. You first pick the Ornn on the second rotation, and then you can, you know, tease away a couple bans from SNG, the red side, and even just kind of swapping into the top lane if nothing is taken. We're going to see here from Knight that he's still going to be on an Ezreal, so no new picks from Suning Gaming right here. Suning Gaming, I think their main engine for their entire team play is centered around that mid and jungle synergy, so a lot of times they just put Fury on something that is very safe in lane.
Yeah, frankly, a lot of bot lane focus in this matchup right here with that Ezreal being locked in, as you said there, Clement. And Tarek will be the ban out here from Suning, so they are expecting that Ornn to go top lane. He's trying to remove those possibilities from Mao in the bottom, but essentially just taking away all the tank supports here.
The big picks we still have for Clid right now are Kha'ZIx and maybe even Rengar. There still are a lot of mid-jungle synergy picks that they can go with the Zoe. We have to talk about Yagao and his Zoe. I feel like those are huge picks for them. And the way Jingdong likes to play is that they like to have kill combos in the mid lane. We've seen them be the team that is the first to pull out the first to pick Malzahar into the Lee Sin. They also did the Galio Jarvan. So I'm expecting another very strong jungle pick to come out here from Clid and try to get that mid lane going.
Well, there's that Na and Vladimir ban as well towards Suning. So XiaoAL is going to have his champion pool cut down just a little. If you look towards what they'll try and pick up now. Could be a mid laner here as well and still look for that top lane counter pick. Try and see where that Ornn is actually going in the end here from JD, as they will have to reveal their cards in just a second.
Ooh, this is very interesting from Suning. So we're seeing kind of a new page for them being turned around here. This is a slower composition. We have Ezreal, we have Ryze, both tier builders. And as we've just said on the analyst desk, Suning is actually the fastest professional team to play in the world currently. 0.83 champion kills per minute. On average, someone dies every 72 seconds right there. So it's kind of strange to see them turn the clock a little bit backwards and kind of play slow. This is a new face we're seeing from Suning.
Yeah, we'll see if they actually play it out in game as well, because you have to do you have to pick it and then also execute on it, right?
Exactly.
So we'll see if Suning do end up doing so. But Kha'ZIx, one of the picks you mentioned, will be locked in for Clid in the jungle, something still aggro that he can get to play around with in the early game.
And we also see Jingdong pick up a fast push core in the bot lane. A lot of Varus these days, we see our run with the unsealed spellbook, so they can continuously teleport back to the bot lane and keep that push going. If they do lock this Janna in, there's actually very little that the Ezreal and Braum can do to push the lane out. So that lane is going to go very well for Jingdong Gaming, and it's actually going to come down to Tian to kind of disrupt that flow.
And the final pick will be Gangplank again into Ornn. And how do you feel about this one, Clement? Because personally, as a top laner, in fact, we're both top laners on this desk.
Yep.
It doesn't feel so good when you're picking Gangplank into the Ornn, but it seems like top laners keep getting away with it.
Well, we have seen Clid punish this, and I would actually say Clid and Zoom's Ornn have been the best combo in killing that Gangplank over and over again. We've seen him do that with the Lee Sin. XiaoAL is not safe underneath his tower, but I think for Jingdong, their game plan might be a little bit different. I think for them, most of it is going to be about punishing SNG not really hopping on the fast push meta and trying to hyper progress this Varus into his build. So I think the Gangplank's actually going to be fine this game. I think most of the picks that Jingdong are going to be looking for are going to still be in the mid and the bottom.
Okay, we'll see if that actually happens here in this matchup, because I do expect these teams to hit as fast and as hard as they can, especially off the back of Clid. It's very much a jungler who will try and get things going in that early game. Very Condi-esque when he kind of interacts with his team here as well. So I have to see if that actually works. And plus, we have to look at that mid lane, because you were talking about Yagao, and he's on his Zoe as well, no less. And this guy is absolutely insane, because, to be honest, when you watch a lot of Zoe players outside, I would say Yagao and Xiaohu, it's just like the champion does a lot of the talking. But he's so active on that champion when you see him play.
You have to remember that redemption snipe on MLXG. MLXG paused for a moment, looked up at the sky, and knew he was done for. Like, he couldn't even move. He was like, what is this? Oh, it's a 4-minute redemption from mid lane. Oh,
yes.
yeah, I should have been aware of that.
Yeah, he was definitely window shopping in that one. Very unfortunate, and he was caught out on that ward in the end. But Yagao's just constant presence of mind, and we have to remember this guy's a rookie. Like, he's just joined the league, and he's already taking names.
A very frightening rookie, to be fair. We're seeing the player lineups right now. Zoom and Yagao have definitely been the ones that I've kind of mixed up a lot. Very similar looking.
Yeah, we've got that natural synergy, of course, on JD Gaming heading into this one. 3-1 at the top of the group. They've only got themselves alongside IG as well. You see all the fans in the audience ready for this game, which is pretty crazy, because we've just come off the back of an RNG game as well, and we've still got fans coming in right after that.
Oh, you know, everyone is hyped for the e-commerce wars. You know why?
Why is that?
Last time they played each other, the team that won, they started giving out coupons.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're the
really?
biggest retailers in China, and if they do win, you know, they want to let their fans know that they appreciate them, you know.
I hope the analyst desk is listening, try and get down there and try to sell those coupons.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm not going to pick any favorites here, but if you guys are listening to this cast, you should head over to the venue.
Yeah, get in here. I see there's only a couple seats left, but it's pretty packed right now in the house. But yeah, just a couple moments away from getting into this game. Suning Gaming and JD. And to be honest, Suning have done a spectacular job of ramping up of it as a team. You know, they came in just to split a go alongside Top Sports, who previously known as Dan Gaming. And Suning have just progressively gotten better and better. And their identity have shifted definitely just a little when you look towards mid lane, jungle, bot lanes. Generally remain pretty consistent, and you know, Fury and Yoon was always that bottom side that you could really rely upon.
Yeah, our predictions at the start of the season were actually completely wrong. We thought what Knight was going to do to the team was he was going to play a control mage, something like the Orianna he was very famous for, and allow Fury to play the team fights well. They've completely ditched that plan. They're now going all in into the Knight. I'm going to give you a counter pick, and you're going to carry the game. And Fury, you just play Ezreal and don't die in the bot lane.
Yep.
So it's very interesting, and I wonder how Coach Sim is getting all of this done. Because like we've said on the Analyst Sex, Suning Gaming were actually the slowest team to play in the LPL, and now they're the fastest team in the world. They're super scrappy. They pick a lot of global champions. We see them pick Shen twice in the bottom lane for the support Yoon.
Just a quick update, guys. We do have a small pause on the stage currently, so we are just waiting for that one to resolve itself. We're not just talking for the sake of talking. These players want to try and get in as fast as possible. But I do want to loop back on that, Clement, because you kind of said it all lackadaisical, that they used to be the slowest team in the league, and now they're the fastest team in the world. Not just in the LPL, but the entire world.
Yes, in all major regions, Suning Gaming is the fastest team to play, and they're also doing that by killing a lot more opponents than they're actually losing deaths. A lot of times when you look at the fastest team to play, it's usually because they're like bottom of the barrel teams and they're giving up a lot of kills. But for Suning, that is totally not the case. In fact, I would say that one of their strongest traits is how good they can find skirmishes and keep skirmishes going in the mid lane. The two big players for this you have to talk about is XiaoAL in the top lane, and I think it's interesting to point out the way that he differences from Zoom, the other top laner we have from Jingdong Gaming, is that XiaoAL is willing to go more into those fighter champions. We have seen him pick up the Jax. We know he was a very good Clid player back in the previous split.
Yep. The Clid main on desk as well.
Oh yeah, I love Clid. That champion's so fun.
Just another quick update is a mouse problem on Suning Gaming side for their jungler, so we are just waiting that one to pretty much just get a new mouse. To be honest, it's a pretty easy fix. It's not one of those things that you just have to sit here forever. It's just like, oh, what's the bug? No, it's literally just a mouse problem. So it will only take a couple minutes to resolve that one. But yeah, it's really interesting to look at these two teams, because I think both of them are very much live fast, die young teams. So do you think Suning is the more live fast team? Or
they definitely are. I feel like for me, Suning is kind of a one-trick pony at this point. They don't really have the depth of composition, especially for the AD carry role. It's really rare to see in this meta where you commonly see 5 bans on the marksman that an AD carry can get away with only 2 picks. And like maybe they're hiding something for us. This is definitely a new draft phase. We've never seen like a triple scaling composition from them. So this is their chance for Suning Gaming to prove that they have more in their playbook and they can show the world.
Do you think triple scaling is the way to go against JD Gaming, though? Because if you're coming into game 1, do you not want to just stick to your MO, which is go in fast, go in hard? Because ultimately you are facing down someone like Clid, who is very difficult to absorb.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and I am very worried for Suning Gaming. I'll just leave it at that. I feel like in this matchup, their weakest point is their jungler Tian. We can just talk about like what happened in the previous set where they face up against Rogue Warrior and Flawless, and it was basically Flawless was able to get 3 levels on Tian. He took away all of his second rotation buffs, and for Tian, he didn't even get to see his red buff. Every single red buff was taken away by Flawless. So they do have a problem there in like just the 1v1 potential. I don't necessarily think Tian is up there. And Clid, in my opinion, is actually the superior Lee Sin player. Ooh. I feel like he's actually, I know, Flawless, he has so many clean plays, but Clid for me, I think he's more, he plays more, how do I put it? Cordial, I'd say. Like he definitely plans things more. He's not just Flawless. The way Flawless
like
does
cerebral,
things.
Like thinks about his plays.
Yeah. So what Flawless does, he basically hangs around your jungle all the time, and he's so confident in his mechanics that he can Q1, Q2 into you, and be confident that he can W ward jump away before the Jarvan EQ even lands. Like that's how much confidence he plays with. And sure, like it looks so good, and he does get a lot of good early games, but in the mid game he actually gets punished for that quite a bit. I feel like Clid on the flip side is actually, he does play with his laners a little bit more. He does invade for purpose. It's more purposeful when he does things like that. So I'm not sure how Tian's going to face up against that. And you can see that in the draft phase. Like Suning Gaming definitely know that that would be a point of weakness, so they instantly banned the Lee Sin.
I want to keep talking about Clid versus Flawless, though, because you're saying that Clid is a better Lee Sin than Flawless. And you're saying he's like a more cerebral player,
yes,
like he's like smarts versus mechanics. But do you think that Clid has less mechanics and more smarts,
definitely
or is like equal mechanics versus what Flawless has to offer?
Clid has some sick mechanics. Did you see how many times he killed that Gangplank in the top lane? Did you see?
Hey, I'm not done yet.
He kicked away MLXG, one of the cleanest Baron plays ever.
Yep. I mean, to be honest, last bit as well, we saw the play in the mid lane where Clid literally lands the kick of the century on the entire enemy team. You know, this guy, someone to look out for, and he's also the bedrock of the team at the end of the day. Like, you have these new players like Yagao, like Zoom in the top lane as well, but you really look towards the veterans on the team to keep the identity together, and that definitely falls on Clid.
Yeah, in this game, I feel like they had a very good draft. They have the Zoe and Kha'ZIx combo we've seen all the way back from All-Stars. This is tried and proven. You send Kha'ZIx into the jungle, he gets that stealth, he can go anywhere he wants. And once Zoe just tags someone with that Sleepy Trouble bubble, Kha'ZIx goes all in. It's almost an instant kill combo at that point. It's very hard to avoid, and especially when you have so many losing lanes, I feel like it's going to be very hard for Suning Gaming to keep up. I feel like their blue buff is going to be a major point of contention because that blue buff is going to get pushed in all the time against Janna and Varus.
Now, Clement, what is your opinion on Zoe getting through picks and bans? Do you feel like Zoe... Because right now, there's a lot of champions that can play into Zoe. There's a lot of tools that you can use to mitigate the power that Zoe has. And it seems like right now, a lot of LPL teams are saying, we can play against it because we're able to. However, if Zoe randomly hits a random paddle star at 50 minutes into the game and one-shots your ADC, you just win the game.
Well, in this matchup, I feel like there's a couple reasons Suning let it through. Number one, they do trust in Knight. They feel like Knight has a couple counter picks up his sleeve. We have seen him play the Kassadin into it, and if he does get a good lead, he can snowball that lane very hard. And the other point is, I just feel like Zoe is the type of champion where she has a sky-high upper limit, but she can also do very poorly in game. It's kind of there's a very heavy RNG focus on that type of champion. And for Suning, I actually feel like they're coming in here in this series as kind of the underdogs. So you're fine with that RNG type of element. Like, if they flip a bad coin and it goes like 60-40 in your favor, then it's fine.
You're fine to take it because it's still better than 0, right? And we are the LPL at the end of the day. It's usually, if it's a 50-50, that's good for us because we can just outplay you at the end of the day. We have the mechanics, we have the talent to be able to make that one work for us. And you know, JD coming in here, saying that they're the favorites as well in a group like this because, you know, it's easy to say like this group, for example, could be less of the heavy hitters than we have in the other group. Obviously, WE, like EDG, look at those teams. But when you look at this one, IG springs to mind, RNG at the same time. But then you have JD, and JD are right at the top right now.
JD, so far, they've been taking names. The only team that's been able to take them down a notch has been IG with Rookie in the mid lane. And I think you can see from that series like what it really takes to take Jingdong down a notch. And the two things I would talk about was about how Rookie was able to keep pace with Yagao, and so far he's been the only mid laner to really be able to do that, to kind of contain him and stop him from snowballing the entire game. The second part is Jingdong still look very, very rough in terms of their macro plays. They will do a lot of suicidal things. We've just seen that in the previous series where Clid tries to go for an Elder Drake when he has 25% of his HP
Not
up.
even, yeah.
Yeah, so they're still very green on that side, but I feel very happy for them. They're a team that's been touted as a team with no stars, and people doubted them. They said they would probably be a bottom team, just like TOP. And they're proving everyone wrong.
They're right at the top. I mean, to be fair, we're coming into week 3 now, so there's still a lot of LPL to play, but we're actually getting to the end now of inter-conference play. We're about to get into cross-conference very shortly, you know, just after Chinese New Year.
And you know who's the happiest?
Who's that?
It's TOP. You know why?
Why is that?
Okay, so TOP...
That doesn't seem great for TOP, because then you're facing like EDG.
Let me give you my reasoning, okay?
Okay.
They're known as the Lingsi Street Assassins. So they've been able to defeat every single team that had a gaming house on that street, on Lingsi Road. So who is on the top of the other conference? It's Bilibili Gaming, Snake, and EDG. Those were the 3 teams that TOP, when they were down gaming, were able to defeat. So TOP, you know, don't count them out yet. They're waiting for that intra-conference.
Clement, it feels like we're reading tea leaves. I don't know. I don't know if we could take that really at face value, because you look at TOP, they're on what, a 16-series losing streak if you're including them being a team from last year.
I've seen worse. I've seen worse.
I mean, okay, you are from the LMS. You have seen worse, but
TOP,
in a best-of-3 system?
They did show up against IG, though. I will say that. They actually did pull a pretty close series, and things are kind of warming up there. I wouldn't put my money on them necessarily, but...
You're saying there's a chance.
yeah. But, you know, they are showing some signs of life.
Do you think that the reign of JD Gaming is going to continue through cross-conference? Do you feel like they're going to remain at the top, or IG will start to pull ahead, likewise with RNG?
I do think they will keep their lead there. The thing about Jingdong Gaming and why they've been such a surprising team is that there are no weak members on this team, and that's kind of rare for any LPL squad, to be honest. Like, you can't point to a single person where you'd say, I feel like this person is not up to par on the task. Like, any one of these people can go off. I will say that where they do have their rough edges, is their team fight is still pretty one-dimensional. They do play a very aggressive style. Usually what Loken does is he flashes forward. Yeah. So they're definitely a forward-playing team. We didn't see a single kiting team fight for them against RNG. So that might be, you know, that might come into play when they're going up against teams like BLG, who have Athena and can play that Azir so well.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, you know, Loken is very much an emotional player, I would say. Like, Loken's the type of player who you don't know what you're going to get out of him, because sometimes he can do really well. Like, if you put him in the pressure situation, sometimes he cracks, sometimes he just kills the enemy team. It's just like that kind of wild card and that kind of factor, it can sometimes be a good thing. But for JD, who want to be a consistent team and stay at the top of that leaderboard, sometimes that becomes obviously a problem.
Oh, the camera really likes this. This
one
sign.
Fan. Yeah. Oh no, yes, 100%.
Oh, what were you looking at, Pauls?
Huh? No, I was definitely looking at the sign. What are you talking about?
Okay.
100%. No. Well. Yeah, unfortunately, we're struggling to find a mouse. Yeah, is what I'm hearing.
Mouse is still impacting the games quite heavily, even without playing.
No, he's off at the side. Yeah, why do we just grab mouse?
I wouldn't mind interviewing them again.
Just interview Doinby.
Yeah. Oh, I was really surprised about Doinby interview because I was kind of worried if I should translate or not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because he was basically setting himself on fire against all the fans. It's like, what is the fan base talking about?
To be honest, it was just really cool listening from Doinby. You know, the guy's just like, he talks the way he plays, you know? He's just got like so much style.
Straightforward.
Yeah, he's very straightforward and is just like, you know, likes to talk about everything that is going on. He's very like straight, you know? Very, very forward, as he said. But we are going to send it over to Janna's desk while we try and resolve this deck issue.
Thank you very much, Pulse. Unfortunately, Tian is still having some mouse issues, which, you know, wasn't the case of their jungler last game. But enough of that. Let's go and break down this match.
That's a bad joke.
I had a joke ready, and then Clement stole it from me. And now I just want to go over there, you know, have some very angry words about Clement. But let's get into this match for Oscar, and they've been feeling for some time. Let's, you know, relieve the pressure off Pulse and Clement. History of these two teams.
In my ear. Quick, Froskia, we need a history lesson. Go!
History of these two teams, because they're relatively new to the LPL, especially the organization of Jingdong as well as Suning.
Yeah, so let's start with Suning. No, let's actually start with JD, because they're actually the older organization coming into this. So in 2015, there was this little known team called the XiaoAL, and Doinby was the mid laner of that team. That was the Doinby Swift combo. I'm going to go pretty quickly through this, and then they play through. That team eventually becomes newbie, but the QG Reapers come up from the LSPL into the LPL, and then that roster is eventually bought and renamed as Jingdong Gaming. And of course, JD are the effectively Amazon of China. Now, when they go through that shift, they maintain Doinby. You know, it was the Swift Doinby rivalry. Anytime JD and newbie would clash heads, it was also very interesting because that was the ultimate rivalry. Of course, Swift is no longer in the LPL, so I guess Doinby reigns supreme. JK, he switched over to Rogue Warriors, and this is where we are currently for 2018 JD Gaming. So they go through a couple of rebrandings, they lose their star player, and now the theme for them is reboot. The only player who is kind of extended from the previous roster to this one is Clid and Loken. Now, Mao did come in kind of halfway through, but Clid was the big superstar, and now he has to kind of carry alongside his new superstar in Yagao and top laner Zoom.
And I mean, looking so good, good so far, Jingdong Gaming. They're able to go 3-1, I believe, at the moment. Picked up a massive win yesterday. For the side of Suning Gaming, though, we didn't expect too much from them coming into the split of the LPL, but they've really impressed us.
Yeah, they were kind of this unknown team. You know, massive organization comes in, buys an LPL roster. You're not really sure what to expect from it, but then you have Fury and Yoon. This is the same Fury that formerly played in the LCK, so he used to be on the Samsung roster, and he was kind of an AD carry that was really known for how he positioned in team fights, like always being on the cutting edge of maximizing his damage output. I was very impressed with Fury when he was in the LCK. I was really happy to get him over into the LPL, and he kind of became this center point of Suning last year. It used to be a bunch of creative kind of hyper carry compositions. They would play the famous mobility comp where they would have someone like Clid, Karma, Rakan, and then have a Caitlyn. And I'm not even joking you. We used to call it the Zoom comp. They would literally just ramp him up at 700 miles an hour and just have this Caitlyn coming through with like a shotgun, like boom, got him. And they made a playoff run from LSPL to playoffs in a single spit. Suning were a real surprise, which is why we were very excited for them coming into spring of 2018. Western fans, they have no idea who Suning are, but Suning made the exact upgrades in the exact positions that they needed to turn an initial playoff split into a deep run playoff.
And we've already seen teams from the LSPL make these massive runs, and the biggest one is IMA. We were casting that grand final where they were able to make it to Worlds. where we were able to send IMA to Worlds over Team WE, who eventually got their revenge. We've seen them be able to take them down since. However, Suning, as we mentioned now, is a top of the table clash against Jindong Gaming. And going into this match for Jindong, they came off of a big win yesterday, and you've already mentioned about the AD carry from Suning, but for Jindong, Loken has been looking really good, and he was crucial to their success yesterday.
My favorite story about Loken is actually also with Doinby. So JD were a bottom of the table team last year. They were just kind of barely hanging on, scraping it together, and it didn't matter what Doinby did. You effectively was 1v9 trying to just carry the team on his back, and it came down to a very important match, a playoff potential match for JD Gaming, and Loken had one of the worst series of his careers. And you could see it. The cameraman was like relentless, like right in his face, and Loken just kept like the emotional stress, the strain. He was starting to crack, tearing up a little bit, and then they lose the game. Doinby has an incredible series, Loken has a terrible one, and Doinby turns to Loken and he just sets his hands on his shoulder, and you could just basically see him say, "It's okay." The team laugh, they smile, they get up, they come back together. So I'm super happy to see Loken still retaining the starting spot in JD's roster, and him to, you know, emotionally hardened from last split to this one, start to step up a little bit. In this game, he has his Varus. Loken, also of the LCK, used to play for ESC Ever. That was the famous team that took down SKT and Kespa Cup in 2016. Got to cast that one, was pretty sick. Used to play with Key, who's still over in the LCK, and Varus was his big pick. So he's definitely still comfortable going into this series. And it's just very cool to kind of see the migration and evolution of someone like Loken. We call him a supporting cast character because he's still not the main character of JD Gaming. That's still going to go to Clid. But Loken is slowly kind of grinding his way up there.
I mean, he was able to step up to the plate yesterday in their match, and they've a massive victory as well. And speaking about that, you know, he had Doinby to rely on in the mid lane. Now he does not. However, Yagao's, you know, stepping in for them, and he's been looking really good in the mid lane, slowly becoming one of the hyper carries that Jindong really need, and it's given them a top of the table position at the moment.
And we just heard the casters, they were talking Yagao up. I just have to echo their sentiments, and it completely changes, you know, the dynamic of JD. You're talking about how he, you know, was the guy that carried them over to the top of the table. I think he's going to carry them much farther than that. Again, it's just really unfortunate that a lot of Western fans will come in and they won't know anything about these teams because a lot of the times they don't make it to an international stage, but a lot of these players like Yagao could end up on an international stage. They're actually that good. He reminds me very much of XiaoAL when XiaoAL first came into the LPL. You're just watching him and the mechanical feats and the aggression and just when... You know how when you watch a player and you can kind of see what they're thinking, like their thought process, and you just see that killer instinct? He has it, and he is something very special, and JD are incredibly fortunate to pair him up with talents like Loken and Clid.
He also continues the trend of LPL players having amazing names. His translates to toothpaste. So we have toothpaste in the mid lane. And he went up against the little tiger the other day, so he was brushing his teeth all the time. Apparently they were able to pick up the 2-1 victory with him. On the across the rift, we're going to be looking at Suning. As we mentioned, you know, they were a team that had that massive LSPL run, were not able to make it far enough, but still enough to impress a lot of people in the LPL. Coming into this split, we didn't know what to expect, especially in this conference. They are doing well, but this has to be a big test for them because currently, Jindong and IG are sitting top of the table 3-1, with Jindong being able to take down IG in that head-to-head. Suning now, in order to propel to the top of the table, have to take down the new giants of Jindong.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, how will they do this? Now, the thing that really impressed us with Suning was their creativity. Again, they played like the Zoom composition. They have very creative dives, and we're still seeing a lot of that creativity. Clement was echoing how they're the bloodiest team in the LPL. They currently have the fastest time, and it's not just because, you know, they just get sacked and they lose. I
believe there's a death every 76 seconds or something for Suning whenever they're playing on the Rift.
Exactly, and the thing is even if you go back to 2017 and you watch them in summer, the things that they would do with champions, especially like Bard, who have such creativity about how they're using a Magical Journey and how they're setting up with the Bard ultimate, it makes perfect sense to me that they would then find the same creativity with Stopwatch. In fact, the ability to dive. Suiting with the team that were on Reddit's front page just the other day that went for like that crazy, you know, 4-man, 5-man Stopwatch dive. And like people look at that like, oh man, what a clown fiesta. No, all of that was perfectly timed. They juggled the tower aggro gorgeously. OMG of 2013, watch that. We're just like, what? I wish that existed when we were playing the game. It was so cool to watch. So Suiting, no one really knows who they are, but people should be paying attention to them. They're incredibly fun to watch, and I hope that we do get that bloody, exciting game that we're promising all of our viewers. I swear, they're very fast-paced.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to get into that game shortly. Unfortunately, Tian is still having some mouse difficulties, so it'll be some time before we get into that match. And let's kind of move away from these two teams a little bit. Let's dive into the meta as well as the picks that we kind of expect, especially talking about this stopwatch, because since we've seen Season 8 start, a lot of regions have been using it as a big defense mechanism. Not many people have been picking it up globally, but in the LPL, it's almost become staple to the point where we see our casters kind of pointing it out. Okay, there's 4 stopwatches in this team. We've got to keep track of this player holding onto a stopwatch for this timing, and it's used very aggressively in the LPL.
Yeah, it's used to start setting up dives, and it's how they use it in tandem with I can never say
Minion
it.
Dematerializer.
Thank you, that one. The one that's like the relic shield. And the thing is Rusty likes to point this out on his cast a lot. Watch how they use it on cannon waves building up, because they instantly take down the cannon creep, which means they have a big wave that crashes onto a tower, and without fail, if you time it with your Minion Dematerializer.
You got it.
Anemone, then the jungler is diving in with a stopwatch, and then they're using your stopwatch. And it's just a very telegraphed play at this point in the LPL, and then you start to see teams building up on it, where in the bot lane, you know, we have 2 Anemones, and then 6 stopwatches, and suddenly everyone's teleporting in because we've swapped out our summoner spells, and we've got 5 unsealed spellbooks.
Yeah, plenty of supercalifragilisticexpialidocious in the LPL here. Minion Dematerializer has been picked up quite a lot. We saw it in the first game between RNG and IG when we opened up the LPL, but didn't really touch on that. Now it's become a lot more popular. On top of that, this is all coming from the inspiration tree. We know that picking up boots at 10 minutes is really strong.
It is so good.
There's just, everyone's running it. We had so many in the last match.
Yeah, and I've always been really big on the inspiration tree. When SOAS played it at All-Stars, instead of taking Aftershock or Grasp of the Undying on Maokai, he took Unsealed Spellbook on Maokai. And effectively what you're doing is you're sacking your ability to trade in terms of trading the damage back or getting the health back with either Grasp or Aftershock, and you're prioritizing your team fight because you're going to get the summoner spells up more quickly, which means you're able to teleport Mao and get in the 5v5. And the other really cool thing that almost no one talks about with the inspiration tree is the inspiration traits. The fact that you get more health for taking Resolve as a secondary with inspiration than you do as the first one. It's 115 to 145. So theoretically, when we were all laughing at SOAS's unsealed spellbook, like, what is he doing? Why doesn't he take Resolve? Why does he have unsealed? Well, he was actually tankier, getting summoners up more often, able to contribute more to his team fight. So I'm sorry, SOAS, you were actually a genius. And this is when he reveals, actually, it was a mistake all along. And I'm like, no, shh.
No, don't tell anyone, because that's been exactly what LPL has been harboring on so far in the league. The hyper aggressive, lots of unsealed spellbooks. We've seen some unique plays coming out of it. We've seen the double
unique plays.
We've seen the double swap to have multiple teleports in the same team fight. We even see it unlocking the bottom lane quite a bit, because we know that Ming started off with the Alistar, picking up for Ghost as well as Flash for team fight potential. But now we have teleports on AD carries. We have teleports on supports, not only bringing them to other sides of the map, but allowing these unique AD carries to come back into the meta.
And the big swing, of course, that you're alluding to is Team WE and their fast push composition with Caitlyn, where we saw it at Worlds. It plays in a very similar way, where you take down Caitlyn's tower as quickly as possible, and you quickly start rotating her around the map. But by taking Teleport, suddenly you get that much more control of your creep waves. Even if you have a bad trade, you can just TP back in. But then you're also that much faster on your rotation. Instead of, you know, resetting and walking back down, you're teleporting around, and you're not ganking with the Caitlyn, but you're taking the tower, you know, 30 seconds faster, 30 to 45 seconds faster than it would take you to walk into position. So it was incredibly unique to see Team WE to do it, and it feels like the patch didn't shift. Like, we're still on 8.1, but then as soon as Team WE played that composition, every LPL team suddenly adjusted. And now we have almost every single bottom lane, at least one of the bottom lanes, taking double unsealed spellbook teleport on one of their hyper carries.
And on top of that, we see the aggressive AD carries almost picking it up just so they can maintain tempo, maintain that aggressiveness in the bottom lane. From time to time, we still have the odd Xayah here or there that will pick up, press the attack, fleet footwork on Varus, but Unsealed Spellbook has really, you know, made a stay in the LPL. And a lot of champions have been changing in the meta as well. We had Misfortune crop up very early in the season and completely like smacked out of the LPL.
The same patch, which is what's crazy to me. Because you're absolutely right. Week 1, the first like 3 days, we had MF perma-banned away. She never even got picked. She was just always in the ban list. She almost never comes out in the LPL, but then suddenly just completely disappears. The same thing with Kalista. And it wasn't a patch shift or like a numbers adjustment that did this. I don't know if things are going crazy in scrims or it's just all of the games that we've seen on the stage, but you see the evolution of this meta. I think we've evolved it in 3 different ways over the course of 2 weeks on a single patch. And to me, that's awesome. Like, I've never seen a meta do that before.
A lot of that has been in the bottom lane in the LPL. However, some things have really stayed the same here, mostly in the top side of the map. I mean, we had the NALCS this morning talk about how Gnar is very popular in the LCK, very popular and not really played in the NA, but is cropping up here. And Jan also talking about Vladimir, which is very strong in the LPL. Not only picked up as a mid lane pick, but also flexed by a lot of teams into the top lane. And really is one of those champions that you know likes to scale late into the game, but we have such short game times in the LPL that he's just fighting all the time now.
Yeah, and that was the big point that Jack was hitting on, is the fact that, of course, Vladimir would do really well in the LPL because since we're fighting all the time, you're pretty much maximizing the use out of his Hemoplague. But I do agree with you. It is quite interesting. You know, Vladimir hyper scales so well, and so we see a lot of games. I know when we're watching games together as an analyst, because the caster desk is actually right over here, and so a lot of times our analysts waiting on desk will all sit together and we'll just kind of talk about the games and watch them on screen. We always talk about like, oh, unfortunately this game's over. You know, it's Azir Vladimir, but this game's gotten snowballed out of control, and they can just stall out for like 15 minutes and they just won't be able to do it. But on the flip side, you know, then if Vladimir's on the winning team and he suddenly gets snowballed ahead, that hits like a truck.
I mean, as you said, during All-Stars, we saw SOAS pick up the Unsealed Spellbook on Maokai. Vladimir was one of those top lane picks that a couple of LPL top laners were messing around with in solo queue. We're like, oh, here we go. This weird pick, it's going to crop up somewhere, and then suddenly becomes a staple pick in the LPL. Something that is constantly banned out as well. The mid lane, however, is still focused on a lot of key-centric champions. We see Ryze very frequently, Azir, as well as Zoe. These are the main 3.
Malzahar.
Malzahar's the 4th one, and on top of that we have a couple of players that like to play support, like Rookie or like Doimby, who pick up the Karma. We've had an odd Lulu game here and there, but the mid lane has not really changed except for the fact that people are now picking up minion dematerialize that push out, but no weird champions coming into play, so to speak.
We're not getting as many Azirs through. He still has such a high priority in our ban phase, but I feel like anytime I turn on the LCK, I'm seeing a lot more Azir, and you know, maybe that speaks to the LPL mid laners not feeling as comfortable about what answers they take into it. I know that Karma, as we see Rookie and Doimby picking it up, a lot of the times it is to kind of deal with the Azir, because you can try to poke him out or not abuse his long range, but circumvent his long range by kind of running around. So also was the same theory with Lulu when she used to be back into the meta, used to place the her picks on a creep on the back line and then shoot the glitter lance from there, and then your range goes from like this to like this, and so you can technically hit Azir where he can't hit you, but it feels like teams have backed away from that. Now they're just like, nope, just ban the Azir.
And we see a lot of priority, as you mentioned, on, you know, on the global pressure from Unsealed Spellbook, on the mobility from champions like Vladimir, Karma, Azir. And normally when we have metas like this, we see champions like Twisted Fate start to crop up. He hasn't been around in meta for the longest time. He's just getting obliterated in the mid lane. No one's going to be playing him here, but no real big changes in the mid lane just yet. That's where the LPL's kind of stayed, you know, similar to the rest of the world in terms of meta. In the jungle, it's quite similar as well. We see Kha'ZIx and Jarvan picked up very frequently. The odd Lee Sin player like Flawless will always get his hands on that champion, but not too much innovation going on there either.
The biggest innovation for us really is still in that bottom lane, the fact that we play more Vayne than anywhere else in the world. And I was having this discussion. I'm not sure if it's simply because we're taking advantage of like because it makes sense that you'd be able to play Vayne in this meta. The Relic, the Overheal, the fact that Tom Kinch is running around, the fact that you can do Unsealed Spellbook and you have the teleports.
The fact that it's the LPL and everyone plays Vayne.
But I think that's what it is. I think it is as simple as we have a ton of Vayne players, and our Vayne players are very good, so they're gonna play Vayne, and that's literally the only analysis that I come, because I look at this, I'm like, Ryze is such a powerful champion in the game. Why would Vayne ever be viable? Because Ryze can hit you outside of or right on Vayne's auto attack range, and even then you think of an Azir, like Vayne is such short range. If an Azir's in the game, she can't get anywhere to do any damage. But the LPL's like, whatever, pick it. We can do it.
We'll be fine.
It's fine.
I mean, what are the chances that right now Uzi's, you know, sitting at home watching his team play and be like, why 4 enable? Both of them being able to play Vayne. I just want to come back to the LPL and play Vayne. I RNG's first game ahead of Vayne. And, you know, he's the one that is really well known for this champion. I mean, Crystal's laughing on Snake. He's already played 4 games in the champion.
I actually think, again, another discussion with Raz, quote unquote for Razzleplasm. Crystal's the best Vayne in the LPL. He's actually really good at the champion. We have a lot of incredible Vayne players. If you haven't seen Snake play, there's a reason why they're on top of the standings. And I have a sneaking suspicion that it does involve Crystal's positioning on Vayne. He's got one gorgeous team fight that comes up in our top 5 plays a lot of the time, but it was very cool to watch.
Crystal has been a standout player for Snake. Snake in general doing really well at the start of the LPL here. On top of that, in the bottom lane, we see a lot of on-hit damage builders. We see Varus as well as Kog'Maw cropping up. Kog'Maw feels like a hyper carry at the moment, but it almost feels like he can't scale as well into the late game anymore. But, you know, we'll have to see what's going to be panning out, because actually we're going straight into this game. Let's send it back to our casters.
Thank you so much, guys. And indeed, we are getting into game. We'll try and get that onto your screens as fast as possible. Apologies about the delay. It was a mouse issue, but we are now 2 minutes 30 into the game. That's because we had to pause, repause, pause, repause, and then eventually we're here now. So nothing's actually happened, just been the start of the laning phase here, Clement.
Yeah, and just to give everyone kind of a refresher on the picks being chosen here for Suning Gaming, we are seeing a triple scale composition. This is not something that we've seen them pick before. And for Jingdong Gaming, everything's really about that mid-jungle combo with Kha'ZIx and Zoe in the mid lane.
Yeah, and shout outs for the analyst desk for the fill of the century right there. Always love to hear a little bit of history about the LPL. But yeah, coming into this game, it seems like JD Gaming should have the advantage when you just look at them in terms of the standings right now, especially when you look at this guy on your screen right now, Yagao on this Zoe. He's going to be facing down Knight as well. Another fill-in into this, but he's most known for his assassins, though, I hear, in his LSPL career.
Yep, his most played is the Orianna pick, but we've seen him on Zed a couple times. His LeBlanc is very well known, even through the higher echelons of Korean Challenger there. And he does have a very good cast-in as well. We've seen him play at this split. What's more interesting about his champion pool is that he's one of the only mid laners to not pick up the Azir.
Yeah, meanwhile, on the top lane, you've got Zoom, XiaoAL. Again, we're seeing this Gangplank and Ornn matchup over and over and over again. But as you were telling me, you were promising me, Clement, that JD Gaming is one of the teams who will really actually try and punish this Gangplank on the top side.
They definitely are. You can see Clid up here right now. Like, Xiao is very overextended, but good on Tian that he was able to spot this out. What I'm really interested about talking is the bot lane. If you can see the matchup, it should be in favor of Jingdong, but Suning played very well into this. They actually took double minion dematerializer and are actually able to equalize that lane.
Yeah, actually just going to be farming this one out here against Loken and against Mao. And it looks like JD Gaming are moving towards that fast push composition that we're starting to see all over the board, especially with this Janna coming in as well.
This is kind of hilarious that a single rune decision can influence how the laning matchups actually work. Because Suning should have been pushing from the get-go. Ezreal does not have any pushing power. We typically see Janna as a straight counter into the Braum, but they're still able to hold themselves in lane. And if you look at how many minion dematerializers they still have left, that's still enough to clear a full wave.
Oh yeah. This is very aggressive by Tian, though. He's actually invading onto the Kha'ZIx, and Clid not very happy about this because he got mid lane as well. Yagao just half helps him and puts him 6 feet under.
That was a mistake from Tian, if I could say right there. So what happened was Tian actually chased Clid out of the jungle, but Clid came back on the same side and basically caught him out. We're going into another pause right now.
We are indeed, and unfortunately that was Sejuani dying on Suning's side, and I know the mouse issue did belong to the jungler of Suning, but I didn't see anything there that would allude to a necessary mouse problem. It's like, yeah, I accidentally passed into the enemy jungle. Sorry, guys.
We do have Chrono Break, and we have that happen in the LPL before, so if there is something that drastic, I'm sure that we can, go back to a time where it might have been better.
To be honest, we're just speculating, and what I'm hearing right now is it is in fact a new issue, but we don't have any update on that so far. So as soon as we do, we will update you as fast as possible. But we can only apologize for this pause. We want to get into the game as much as you do, because to be honest, we kept hyping this game up as the action-packed game, JD Gaming, Suning Gaming, like they're gonna go at each other. This is the e-commerce wars. And I just want to see some blood, and we got a little bit, but we got that first blood, but that's just a drip, unfortunately. But yeah, pretty much that should be how this matchup works out, Knight being this assassin play, he's still got the assassin blood at heart,
Yeah, so this is the #1 Western team playing the 2nd Western team in terms of the standings right now. So a very hyped matchup, and it has a lot of impact in terms of like playoff positioning. If you're looking at the west side of the table right now, I do feel like the 3 teams that are in contention for 2 slots in the playoffs are Suning, LGD, and Jingdong. And actually, RW are kind of in that same group, so you have
so basically the whole group apart from TOP.
4 teams vying for 2 slots, because I feel like RNG and IG are going to pick things up, and they're going to stay on top.
Yep.
But the other teams in the middle, that can be a very, very tight race.
Yeah, it's actually really competitive in that group, so I just have to wonder how that turns out, because it's just like, at what point during the split do you start calling it, right? Because you're 3 weeks in, and you're like, oh no, don't worry, we've got 7 weeks left of play. At what point is it too much, and you've just lost too many games, and you're just unable to get that contention?
Yeah, I think things will really heat up after after Chinese New Year. You know, a lot of people are waiting on the Year of the Dog to arrive, so...
Yeah, so as I'm sure is going to be very happy about that.
Yeah, you know, some people aren't fan of roosters. They don't want to play in the Year of the Rooster.
What is next year?
Dog.
No, next year.
You mean after Dog?
Yeah, this year's Dog.
No, this year's not Dog.
This year's not Dog?
Next year's Dog.
What's this year?
No, you have to count. You have to count by lunar years.
Oh.
So after this lunar year, it's gonna be Dog.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's the way I see it. So after the Chinese New Year's break, then it's Dog.
Yeah, I see. I should know that as well. I am the year of the boar.
Oh.
Yeah.
The boar? We typically just call it pig.
Yeah, but boar sounds way cooler than pig.
Okay. You know, whatever suits you.
What are you, Clement?
I'm a snake.
Snake?
That's why I'm a snake fan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's why you're a snake fan?
Not really. Not really. Not everything in life depends on your
Clement,
zodiac.
you're meant to just double down on that statement. You're just like, yes, I was born into it. I was born into being
It's
a
in my
snake
blood.
fan. Maybe that's
I'm
why
a
the snake
Slytherin.
Maybe that's why the snake arena is packed every single time. They just get all the snake people in.
I'm pretty sure it has more to do with all the people in Chongqing.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Those fans are very, very, very passionate.
Yeah, so just to kind of, you know, keep our heads in the game a little bit. Fast push from Jingdong Gaming coming out here, and they did manage to collapse and get a first pick on Tian, which is pretty bad news from for Suning Gaming, because before the game started, we said that this was the main point that they had to worry about, was being jungle invaded. Tian did not show the ability to really resist against Flawless, and now he's going up against, in my opinion, an even better Lee Sin player in Clid, and giving First Blood over, that feels really bad. We've seen so many Zoes. If you give them an inch, they will take a mile. They'll just snowball crazy on that pit champion. So
how do you feel about the fact that Tian was just like, I'm going to invade Grom? Do you feel like that's not a good move against someone like Clid who's on Kha'ZIx?
Well, there's a couple very obvious things that went wrong, and I know we were talking about the bot lane, so to be honest, I didn't see how the entire play developed, but what we did see was that Sejuani actually had 2 wards already set up in the blue side, so she wasn't going in there blind.
Yeah.
But it did seem like she wasn't considering Zoe the main point, I feel, because Zoe got to there super fast.
Oh, yeah.
It was very clear that Yagao had the priority in lane, and I think that's what really killed the Sejuani. If it was just the damage from the Kha'ZIx, and I feel like she could have Arctic Assault over the wall and be fine with that. But it did seem like something was missing there, maybe the communication, or maybe even Zoe just used a flash or something. We might have to get the replay after we get back into game.
Very true. And to be honest, that's just one of the wildcard factors of Zoe. We were talking about her impact in late game, but she's impactful all game long. Like in the early game, she'll still literally half health you is what we saw. Oh, it says why. She's meant to be the tanky one.
So there's this one play that really tilted me in the Demacia Cup, and it was Rookie playing Zoe. So he brought Unsealed Spellbook, and he was running Teleport. He teleported back to lane, shoved, and the enemy mid laner had to go back. Now his jungle just happened to be pathing in the bottom side of the map, and you know, usually in a 3v2 situation, it's safe for the enemy bot lane. And then Rookie just managed to pick up another teleport. So he just teleported 30 seconds ago. He picks up another teleport on the ground and instantly makes it a 4v2 bot lane. And I just sat there thinking to myself, is there actually a good macro defense against that? And the answer was no. Like, no,
there is not.
You just got blasted. Sorry.
But we are getting back into game once again, guys. Once again, apologies for the delay. We are trying to solve these issues as fast as possible, and hopefully tap on wood, that we will not have any more problems in this game. But we've got Clid in the top side. Tian, the def still went through. He's still down for the count, and now he's into the bottom side of the map.
Okay, so we did see the time move forward just a little bit. Obviously, Tian is no longer in the fountain. The play is developing right now.
Yeah, the ram goes wide, but Clid's here as well, trying to punish this Gangplank and Yagao following up. However, Zoom tanking the last tower shot, holding the door open for the rest of his team to pick up the kill on Gangplank.
Very easy execution there from Jingdong. If you look at the top side of the map, it's completely covered in Jingdong wards, and that's probably because of the kill on Sejuani. Tian was able to place all of his wards. He's opting for a more map control type of build with the double wards and the green upgrade for his jungle item.
Yep, and XiaoAL finally being punished. This makes me so... You don't even understand, Clement, how happy this makes me feel, because we've seen so many Gangplanks last picked into Ornn. They try to punish, or they don't even try to punish, and Ornn maybe comes out with like a 10 CS lead, and then Gangplank goes late game and one-shots the whole team. It's like, why does this keep happening? But finally, JD are punishing.
Yep, and that's just kind of a snowball effect from the mid lane starting out here. What really should be worrying Suning right now is Yagao is able to leave lane whenever he wants to. You already see the lost chapter being built on her. He does have the lane priority and also a kill and an assist on his belt. This is looking very dangerous for Suning Gaming. And what's really interesting is that they're actually losing control of the top side of the map faster than they are losing control for the bottom side of the map. So Jingdong actually have to kind of make a decision right now. How are they going to cover both lanes at the same time? Because the #1 rule for any jungler in professional play is you don't play top side and bot side at the same time.
Yeah, it's just a little too much to do all at once, to be honest. But Tian is going to try and continue farm out the rest of his jungle. He's very close to level 6. And this should be level 6 for him indeed. So now he will be able to look for a counter gank maybe, or even force open a gank on a different side of the map. Though he is still hovering around this top side.
We can definitely see Jingdong Gaming gearing up for that Infernal Drake, a very high-value Drake early on into the game. We see Kha'ZIx is already invading. He's trying to dissuade Sejuani to coming back to this side of the map. So if Tian is on the top side, then they get a free Infernal Drake. Also, Yagao's movement in the lanes also is heavily signaling this. You can see him slanting onto the right side. So if he manages to land any damage on that Ryze, he can instantly head toward that Infernal Drake and get that objective.
It's a lot of just small things right now, so Yagao is looking just to cut Knight off, but unfortunately wasn't able to do so with the bubble, and Clid will path towards the top side, most likely to give the blue buff over to Yagao. And also the fact that he showed his face means that Tian now knows that his blue buff was stolen away. Though if you take a look at the bottom side of the map, that's a lot of vision from JD Gaming. Pretty much just lit that whole area up like a Christmas tree around that dragon.
Oh, Gangplank coming in. They're trying to dissuade the fast push.
Yeah, well, he's popped his ultimate. I'm not sure if he's coming in as such. Though Loken will burn the flash here, and honestly, Suning going to be very happy about that.
Very safe play there. They did see the Sejuani and the Ryze in the mid lane, so they understood that was only a 2v2 scenario, but still opted to give up the flash there. So this is, I feel like this is actually pretty good play from Jingdong. They just want to avoid like any unnecessary deaths that would disrupt their tempo in the game. If they can hold kind of how the laning situation as it should be, then they should definitely come out ahead.
Normally when you see an exhaust, it's like, an all-in situation, but in Zoe's case, it's just something she picked up off the floor.
Yeah, and she probably just used the redemption as well. We did see her pick that up. Knight getting bullied out of the lane. Can't really blame him. The enemy just used 2 extra summoners.
Yeah, not really his fault, but at the same time, I would say it's probably a team fault, because leaving this Zoe open makes it very difficult in the laning phase. And I thought isn't Ryze meant to do okay into Zoe?
Well, not if the Zoe starts with a kill and an assist. No.
Okay, fair. Yeah, very fair. But yeah, there are meant to be answers now.
And also you have to remember that this Ryze did not get his blue buff. It was taken away by Clid.
Yeah. Yeah, that just happened, and Clid actually punishing the top side as well. The Ornn horn is sounded, and that's another very easy kill onto XiaoAL. Another punish onto the GP.
Jingdong Gaming basically telling Suning, we can play any side of the map you choose. You know, you go ahead, you can use all your wards bot lane. I'm just going to go top and kill your top laner. It doesn't matter, you're not even going to contest.
Yeah, Zoom is building a massive CS differential against him and XiaoAL right now. Almost 40 actually in that top lane. It's going to be absolutely massive. And XiaoAL, he's not even got his Triforce. Usually at this point in time, I'm just like, why does Gangplank lose lane and still get Triforce at 12 minutes? But right now, he's actually starting to struggle just a little bit because of so much CS that he's missed.
Yeah, and this is not something we've seen from XiaoAL so far. Like, he's a very good laner, likes to play into these fighters, and seeing him get camped like this is very uncharacteristic of him. I really think you have to give props of how well Jingdong is playing into this Gangplank.
Yep.
We've seen them do this in the previous series as well, so this is definitely something they've practiced very hard.
And frankly, Zoom is just going to be unkillable at this point in time. He gets first blood gold on tower, and he got those multiple assists on top of that. He's got the Iceborne Gauntlet, and he's got Merc Treads. Like, he's just absolutely gigantic.
Yeah, and the big problem here for Suning Gaming is that Yagao and Zoom can opt into that 4v2 bot lane at any point in the game. You can see Zoom summoners in the top lane. He hasn't needed to expend any of his summoners, so he still has that teleport up.
Yep. He just needs to switch into it, and he'll turn up in the bottom side, especially when Infernal is going to be a thing very, very shortly between these two teams. Clid and Tian just spotting themselves in the river, just kind of passing ships. And right now, it's all centering towards this bottom side. You can see actually Suning Gaming are the ones who are pushing up here. Knight's going to get put to sleep, and Yagao going to come in with the punish here as well. Drops him to below half, with Clid chiming in there as well. However, Fury, Yoon right on his heels, and Clid goes into the stopwatch right now.
Timing.
In comes the Ornn, trying to disengage. Good block out from Yoon as well, but it is enough to get Clid out alive. And unfortunately, Knight's on the front lines, and he will fall.
That was a very risky play from Suning Gaming. What they were hoping on was Zoom was so far in his lane that he wouldn't be able to teleport and interact with the Infernal take right there. But unfortunately for them, we could see that Zoom did in fact notice, and he came down pretty fast, was able to influence that game, and a great Varus ultimate there from Loken, catching out so many people, especially Knight.
Man, imagine body blocking for your support there and still losing half your health because your Gao's just huge.
Yeah, this is not looking very good for Suning Gaming. Traditionally, Knight's counterpick has been the Kassadin, but this time he just didn't opt into it. A good poke out here from Yagao secures them the Infernal Drake.
And we'll take a look at this, and Clid goes into a stopwatch, but everyone's camping on top of his corpse. I want to see what happens to Knight, because he just gets trapped. Ah, he stopwatches.
Yeah, he wanted to avoid the Varus ultimate, but even though he was able to avoid that, he was kind of still stunned in the position.
Roosted himself down. And JD, they have 4 kills, an Infernal Dragon, first tower blood as well. First tower gold, rather. 3,000 gold advantage. And this early game is just all gone over to JD. And I can't help but think, Lemon, you know, the fact that we look towards Suning's composition, I see double tiers on that side. I'm like, it's almost like we're going for a scaling comp.
Well, they are crying right now, if that's what the tiers
thematically appropriate
are. If that's what the tiers indicate. This is a scaling composition. They need to wait for a while. The Gangplank needs his items. The Ezreal, he does have his Iceborne Gauntlet, so that's gonna, that's gonna equalize the lane quite a bit. But overall, Suning Gaming, they don't have the firepower to fight right now, and it is about holding on.
Trying to find this gank from mid lane onto Yagao, but it's in fact Knight who's always gonna drop here. Yagao doesn't follow up with the auto attack, which might have actually been the kill. And even though this guy knows his own strength at this point in time, puts Sejuani to sleep. You have a paddle star as well, mate. And Tian and Knight will both have to go back.
And I guess they're regretting that letting Zoe through the band pick by now.
Yeah, this is what regret looks like, ladies and gents. Tian stops recalling. He will go into the bottom side. He just have red buff, so he'll get a lot of his health back. But in the top lane, Ornn is pushing XiaoAL back to his inner tower. And Suning, this just isn't their usual MO. This isn't generally what they go towards, because there's a reason why they're the fastest team in the league, in the world, is because they go for these early game compositions, they try and snowball, but this is not what we're seeing in this game, and it's going to bite them.
Yep, Suning Gaming, they love their counter picks. Of the 8 games they played, they let Knight counterpick mid 7 times. But unfortunately for this game, I feel like it was completely out of his hands.
Knight trying to get out. Good flash out, actually. Just managed to take the dropship out. And Knight will go back towards the mid lane. So that was very well played.
Gangplank ult's going to come down, defend that very crucial mid tower. If that mid tower falls, the bot lane is pretty much donezo. There's nothing they can do there. Zoe can just roam down. So a very good Gangplank ultimate coming down.
On the flip side, though, JD Gaming playing exceptionally well. Like, they know exactly what to do when they have this advantage. They know how to exploit it. They know what to do next. The steps are all there. Everyone collapses at the same time. Like, it is looking exceptionally good from them.
Yagao said in my interview with him that his teammates really push him to play the Zoe pick. They're really comfortable with it, and this is one of the picks that he does practice the most on. And you can see it's not just an individual skill thing. They're very familiar with how the composition works and what points they can pressure. So they're just rolling away with the game.
Yeah, pretty much. Yagao's got an extra flash in his back pocket. We are looking towards the Herald now as well, courtesy of Clid. Looks like Yagao's going to go up there, at least towards the top side of the lane to support him. And Knight just constantly being battered down by these Paddle Stars. The constant barragement, honestly, from Yagao. Has to play this toxic game of dodgeball in mid lane.
A bit unfortunate for for SNG right now, because the second Drake is going to be a Mountain Drake. That's another very good Drake to accelerate the game pace. So it's going to be difficult for Suning to continue this turtle.
Yeah, because he's got the Eye of the Herald here, ready to drop that down in the lane. Top's already dead, so most likely going to be looking towards the mid lane. You'd have to assume here, Clement.
Yep, Gangplank is never going to come down anywhere on the map aside from top lane. He's just going to stay there until he gets his 2 items, and then maybe he might walk out, but pretty much Jingdong is going to fight with an extra player in Zoom.
Tian has been spotted in the jungle, so he's going to lose all his health here. Clid and Yagao finding him isolated. In comes the Ornn knock up, but he should be able to get... Oh, it's interrupted! Knight unable to get out alive, and this time he dies, and this should be mid lane tower falling.
Yeah, and this is just what we were talking about. Gangplank, he has no incentive to come out of his top lane shell. Jingdong, everywhere else on the map, is going to have an extra person in Zoom's Ornn, and they made very good use of it.
Everyone turning up to the mid lane at the exact same time. Yagao's going to take a bunch of damage, but don't worry, Janna's here with the AoE heal. Another slam charge coming in from the Herald. Going to take a swipe as well at that tower, and the members of Suning Gaming try and defend. So we'll be taking the tower down to about half, and JD say, that's pretty good for today. Let's go back to base and spend all our spoils of war.
Yep, the next objectives for Jingdong Gaming is basically go home, get all your items, push in that bot lane, maybe chunk someone out, Mountain Drake, and then bot lane turret. So it's a very clear game plan for for Jingdong Gaming. It's up to Suning to kind of catch him off guard. See if they can use Tian's ultimate, the Glacial Prison, layer that with XiaoAL's Cannon Barrage. He still does have that up, did not use it in the last fight, so he can still impact the bot lane that way. But it really does come down to kind of this Mountain Drake in this bot lane. Yeah. If these 2 objectives both go over to Jingdong, I feel like it's lights out.
And Suning Gaming, it's going to take them so long to really turn on 9. You look towards a Ryze like, okay, when's he scaling? He's got a Rod of Ages, but needs a couple more stacks on that. The tier isn't loaded up just yet. Top lane, he's got his Triforce, but usually Gangplank's like on 6 items right now at 17 minutes. Like, usually you expect Gangplank to be one-shotting people. So it feels like it's going to take a while for Suning to be able to actually get that 5v5 off.
Oh, Gangplank's not one-shotting people. Zoom's going to one-shot him.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that item.
2 items?
Yep.
At 18 minutes? Absolutely upset. He's farming past a minute as well. 190 CS at 18 minutes. Abyssal Mask and the Iceborne Gauntlet.
Well, apparently Zoom doesn't need Kleptomancy to be a thief.
Yeah, apparently not. And to be fair, he does get a bunch of extra gold as well from the Inspiration Tree, but this is still really, really good. 5-0 in this game, and JD, they're looking towards the Mountain Dragon now. You can see the wards are starting to be set up. Looks like Crab, however, has gone over to Suning Gaming, so you will see Clid as he walks into this Dragon Pit.
Another very safe objective for Jingdong Gaming coming out here. Suning Gaming do have an angle from the top side, but it doesn't look like they're willing to contest at this point. They do ping out Zoom, so they know he's not there, but still not wanting to risk it.
Now, Zoom has also picked up his teleport on top of that as well, so now he's able to get into those fights as soon as he needs to, but I don't even know if he's burnt a summon in this game yet, to be fair.
He definitely hasn't. He's just saving up on those shards at this point. Very good play coming from Tian. Can they get something here?
Well, they're going to try to. Yoon pumps the ultimate. Loken, good ultimate in return, locking them all down. Plus the Howling Gale, and oh man, are you kidding me? Right in the middle of this gank as well. Yeah, we're going to have ourselves a pause.
That definitely looked very weird from Tian. Did not actually use his Glacial Prison at that point. So, probably something on his end.
Feels bad, man. And the second pause now has been also a mouse issue is what I'm hearing. A keyboard issue, in fact, this time. It was peripheral issue based. And it was actually XiaoAL, so it wasn't actually Tian. So it was,
okay.
I believe that one was user error there, Clement.
Okay.
But yeah, it was XiaoAL who's having an issue right now.
It's like, my Gangplank, there's not enough money in my bank. What's happened?
Yeah, it appears I don't have 3 items at 18 minutes. What's going on?
Yeah, the interest rate is wrong, man.
It appears my Inspiration Tree is broken, but yeah, unfortunately we're going to have a little pause here, and hopefully we can swap it out or correct the issue as fast as we can. But we can talk about what's happened so far in this game, Clement. And to be honest, JD Gaming are completely running away with this game.
Yeah, so if we want to recap the game, the big 3 plays I would say was that they're the double dive in the top lane, and then again, the first kill that Tian kind of handed over to the Zoe from Yagao. Those are the 3 big things. The double dive in the top lane has really made sure that Zoom can be anywhere on the map, and Gangplank is never going to be there. Yeah. Gangplank is farming it up. He wants to get back into the game. So, you know, letting Ornn, a champion that has such high impact on the map, just move around and play these 5v4s. And they also have a fed Yagao. It's very difficult for Suning Gaming. I do expect them to kind of change up the ban picks in Game 2, because this triple scaling comp, this like double kleptomancy thing, it's not something we've seen for them, and so far it doesn't look like it's working.
I think we can go even further back, because you're talking about the top lane plays, but that's also because Tian got caught out on the top side trying to take Braum. He dies, and then top side of the map is just lost. Like, the entire top side of the map, there's wards everywhere. So if Tian wants to try and counter gank, he can't. Top dies, then top dies again, and that's where it starts spiraling out of control.
And we can really talk about how Clid is controlling the pacing of the game. You see when he got that kill on Tian, he immediately pushed all the vision into their jungle. You know, he had the green upgrade, and without the camps there to for Sejuani to take, there was no incentive for her to go up there, so he was able to take 2 very, very easy ganks in the top lane. If we really go back and watch those tower dives, it was a 3v1 scenario both times. So you can see what Clid is doing. He's not only counter jungling, but he's also counter jungling to set up further plays. And that's the same thing we saw in the bot lane as well. He's just putting so much pressure on the map. And I feel this is something that Suning Gaming really do need to patch up if they're going to continue on their scrappy type of play style, is that they do need a top-tier jungler, a top-tier brawling jungler for that type of comp to really work.
That's what I just wanted to see from Suning, to be honest. I wanted to see them try the strategy that has been working against JD and see which one's better. Like, that, to me, seems like a very interesting game. But they tried something new here, which I can't dislike, because I would obviously want to see Suning. Did he have multiple faces? Can he pull different compositions out, you know, not being guilty of the old WE, we have 2 compositions, but we do them very well, so we win everything. So it'd be nice to see a team who's actually able to play these different compositions. You know, I very much liken it to one of the new teams that we have right now, FPX. You know, Fun Plus Phoenix is a team who plays multiple different things. They keep losing games, but they still play very well. You know, like at some point that team's going to turn online and actually be able to start finishing out series. And I would like to see the same thing from Suning with this identity change.
And I think it's really important now that we're 3 weeks into the LPL to talk about some of the ban pick shells that we're seeing from the teams coming out. So where they have the Ryze, the Jarvan first pick, and also the Taric. So the way this shell works is that they can teleport with Cosmic Radiance come on, be invulnerable the entire time their engage is over, roam warp directly on you. And in the interviews they said this was just the, if we sit on the enemy team, they die type of composition. So you have your good core there. You know, Crystal's good on Vayne, but I don't actually think the Vayne is the reason they're winning games. It's basically, Crystal, pick a champion that can follow us in team fights. So you have that core. You have WE's core, which is Caitlyn and Galio, and also the Gangplank in the top lane. Lots of pressure on that bot lane. Almost always ensures they get the first bottom lane turret. They also have the highest rate of taking that first turret. And you can see for Jingdong Gaming, they also have a very interesting core. All of their previous series, they have picked into a mid and jungle kill combo. So they either have the Lee Sin Malzahar, they have the Jarvan Galio, or in this game, you can see them going all the way back into the All-Star and have that Zoe Kha'ZIx combo. So you can see these teams are developing their ban picks. They're picking into shells that they're very comfortable with picking into. And the question is kind of for Suning is like, they don't really have a shell to speak of. They just have a counter pick. So they have a Knight. Carry us.
What do you got, Knight? What can you bring to us in this game? Just an update, Clement. We do have another issue with Tian's backup mouse. So unfortunately, it's just peripheral issue after issue. Now, I will ask you, what does Suning do as a website? Is it, because I know it's e-commerce, can you order a new mouse from Suning? How fast will it arrive?
I haven't used their website before, and please don't blame me for that.
I'm hearing from production though, you can indeed buy mice from Suning.
Well, so this would be a
a good time to test it.
Yeah, it's a good time to show like how fast their delivery time is. Because you know, if you're ordering on Jingdong, their motto is if you order before 11 a.m., it'll be there by 5 p.m. on the same day. That's so
very
insane.
Impressive. That is actually super
That's why
insane.
I buy all my stuff on Jingdong.
Wow. Well, maybe we should have a race then. Maybe
who can get nice faster to the venue. Oh, that's going to get so real. I would actually like to see that.
Yeah, someone pass that along. We are going to take another look at that mid lane fight, however, the one that broke open this game. So we're going to take a look at that one right now. And, well, Knight loses most of his HP to start it off.
Yeah, there was good posturing from SNG Gaming right there. They do get a kind of pick on Clid, but Clid still is able to get away with his perfect timing. Knight caught just in a very bad position, dies immediately. I think the main thing you look at that fight is how Zoom is there and Gangplank isn't. So what the Suning Gaming couldn't keep tabs on Zoom at that point. They didn't know where the Ornn was, so they were trying to kind of push their luck and just make a fast pick on that Infernal Drake and try to get themselves back in the game. Unfortunately for them, Zoom was already there waiting with his ultimate, and you could see that team fight went very, very poorly for Suning Gaming. That's just kind of the issues and the meta we're seeing right now is if you're going to pick Gangplank in the top lane blind, there is a lot of counters.
It's just so oppressive as well when this type of composition gets ahead, especially when you have winning matchups like that when Ornn, gets ahead. But this is, to be honest, one of the first times I've actually seen it really come to fruition, because so many times we see Gangplank get picked into Ornn, they get out of laning phase, and it's fine. But this is the one time that it doesn't, and this is why you want the Ornn into Gangplank matchup, because you are able to facilitate those gangs. He can't orange any of the CC that Ornn puts out, because it's all knockups, it's all displacement, and then you can follow up with the high damage from a jungler, from a mid laner, and it actually happened.
And I also think it's very important to talk about side selection in these type of matchups. For top lane, it's very common to see red side top laners to have a much lower win percentage, and that's just because the jungler routes that we typically see in professional games, where it's bot to top, you typically have more pressure when you're on the blue side. You take your red first, you have 2 blasting cones that can take you over walls. So the push advantage is typically on the blue side top laner. So when you pick the Gangplank blind on the red side, there's a lot of scenarios where that lane is going to be constantly pushed up. And I feel like if you're going to pick the Gangplank blind, you can maybe do it on blue side. That would be safer, but doing on red side currently against teams like Jingdong that are very practiced in this, it's so risky.
I feel like eventually this will start spreading out to the rest of the league, right? Like most teams will start being like, okay, this is the formula, this is the blueprint to shut down a GP when it's picked into the Ornn, because the fact is happening so consistently now, something's got to change at some point.
We can see, earlier today, RNG with Karsa doing the exact same thing, and they were doing much earlier level 3. They were successful on the first dive. I will leave it at that. The rest of that was kind of
was it successful?
Weird.
I mean,
they got the first kill. They could have backed
off.
that would have been
but what
successful.
actually happened, Clement? 3 people just suicided into the GP, came out of laning phase with like
all
7 items.
All I'm trying to say is that is a very good strategy to run when you're in the Ornn and Gangplank matchup. You have that blue side pushing advantage for your top laner, and you can see it's very hard for most junglers to contest that 2v2 when it's blue versus red. The red side's typically at a disadvantage. And that's kind of one of those interesting stats in League of Legends. Like, the only top lane champion that has a better win rate on red side is probably Singed. Because the correct play for the enemy jungler is just to never go top.
Actually true. Actually very true. I'm actually wondering at what point, especially teams like OMG and teams like RW, is when they start consistently picking Alawi into Ornn. Now, it's not just because I'm an Alawi player, but it actually not only just to pick. Okay, yes, but it works very well into the Ornn. We've already seen it out of OMG. We've seen it out of Mouse as well. Like, we know that they can pick the pick. So when Gangplank stops working, you can pick the Alawi.
All right. Let me get back to you on this. Here are my thoughts on Alawi and why I feel like maybe it's not like the best thing ever. So back when Alawi was on fire in the meta, everybody was talking about her. If you still went back and you checked Korean Challenger, actually very, very few top laners were playing Alawi. Very, very few. And the reason is that Alawi still has a number of huge problems. The first one, she's not that good into Camille, and Camille is the dominant top laner at that point. The second thing is she's very awkward in terms of team fights. It's very hard to get a good team fight with her. Her ultimate is not fire and forget like
pretty horrible front to back.
Yeah, so if the team just backs out, if they have good spacing, if they CC you at the right moments, then you kind of do nothing. So Alawi's just, we've seen her being picked before the Kleptomancy period. We've actually seen, like, in the LMS, we had Morning pick her in the top lane, and she's always been a good laner. But once you get past that, how are you supposed to work Alawi into the team fights? How are you supposed to work her into a split pushing composition? That has always been big problems for her, and I don't think they're easy problems to solve.
Yeah, to be fair, the big problem with Alawi is her hard counter is people walking away from her.
Yeah.
And as soon as people realize that, the pick sucks. It's very similar to Riven, in fact, because Riven, you know, fell out, and it's like, how do we use this pick in a team fight? Well, if she finds a flank, then amazing. She one-shots everyone. Pretty similar to Alawi, but as soon as teams start warding up and actually playing around the fact there's a Riven in the game, she just becomes useless. So a lot of these picks, in fact, a lot of the top lane adaptation, I think, especially in the LPL, comes down to how fast is it going to take people to adapt to the top lane pick and how it's played against. And then once people do adapt, okay, scrap it, find the new best thing, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like it's almost a surprise factor to see how players work their way into it. And that's a Teemo mousepad. I dislike that.
You know the great thing about the Chinese servers here is that Teemo is actually a 6300 BE champion. If you want to play a toxic champion, you have to pay for it. That makes me feel great.
That does feel pretty good, to be honest.
He's not 450.
Paywall the toxic champions.
Yeah, it really discourages people to pick up Teemo, and I feel good because, you know, whenever Teemo's good in the meta, I feel like there's something wrong with the meta. Because he's a champion that is supposed to, if you figure out how to play against him, then he shouldn't be viable.
When was the last time that Teemo was good outside of, like, you know, Ares? Because before the runes reforged, like, I don't remember the last time Teemo was actually good.
Oh, he was actually being played in Korean Challenger.
What,
for
by
a while.
Noon?
No, in the preseason. Just this split in the preseason, he was actually being played because of all the poke in the game right there. You had your area, you had your mana flow ban.
I'm saying before Rune reforged. Yeah.
Well, you know, TSM used to have a one trick who played Teemo to the top of North American servers.
Okay, fair. That was a long time ago. Wasn't that like season 2?
Yeah, I did main Teemo for a while. I did watch the Rayman stream. That was Wriggle's Lantern meta. I love that.
Oh, Wriggle's Lantern, that's a throwback. Holy moly.
If you're a top lane, you'd love that.
Yeah, to be fair, that was good. Okay, talk to me about Clid, because I know you're a big Clid player. We saw him the other day in top lane. When can you pick Clid in the current meta? Because he's very, I feel like he's the LPL's mascot at this point. Like, because we saw him being played at MSI, it's like, hang on a second. What's this champion?
We do have a lot of LPL players that do play him. XiaoAL is one. Notably, Gimgoon is also one that is kind of a legacy pick for him. The thing about Clid is that there are certain matchups that feel very unwinnable for him. So Clid is in competitive is purely a counter pick. That's the way I would view him. And the matchups that he does poorly against are the matchups where either the enemy team picks a tank that can outpush you, or they pick into a fighter that you can't deal with. So something like Fiora is a big no-no for him because that's just an unwinnable lane for him. And also picks like Nautilus for a long time were very, very hard counter into the Clid. The reason you would want to pick a Clid is if you see some of the tanks that are easier to deal with that have less wave clear, you can kind of bully them out. So picks like Jax you can bully out. Picks like Gnar you can very easily get solo kills. Picks like Maokai in the current meta you can actually somewhat deal with, just because Maokai doesn't have the same type of wave clear like a Nautilus would have. So those are the times that you can kind of pick him into. I will say that his biggest strength is his move speed. Currently 345 move speed. If you pick him into a Vladimir, that's actually a decent matchup just because you have free boots over him. And Vladimir typically goes into magical footwear, so it's going to be 10 minutes until he gets that movement speed. So if the jungler's not there, you can very easily walk up to him. The best combo you want to do is just kind of get the first proc of E on him, auto attack Q, and auto finish up with your full combo, and he's basically out of lane.
Okay, we do have an update, and that's the reason why this has taken so long was we did have to get a referee decision in because we are going to have a Corona break. So I'm glad you talked about that earlier, Mr. Clement, because we are going to have one. Because of the peripheral issue from Tian, we are going to roll back to 19 minutes 17. So that's before all this craziness happened in the bottom side.
Okay.
So we are going to roll back and then play from there.
All right, so it's going to be before the before Braum jumped out of the brush,
it's only
basically.
7 seconds from life.
Oh, okay,
so
7 seconds. I would say this is, I know this is very unfortunate circumstances, but we can analyze this from a logical standpoint, and I would say this does kind of benefit Jingdong Gaming, just because they now know the game is coming. Yeah, so that's a very obvious thing. I don't think we need to, work our way around it. That is kind of in favor of Jingdong Gaming at this point. So unfortunately, Suning Gaming, they're just going to have to find another way to break up that tempo. So
that's very interesting as well, because a lot of ganks in competitive take, you know, 30, 40, upwards of that time to set up. So you path the jungler around there, and then you have to like call people over, and you know, there's a lot of setup that goes into it. So it's also unfortunate because there's no dragon now on the bottom side. So what do you actually go for using the people being in the bottom side of the map now?
I don't think the referees can tell. I don't think they can tell Loken to, hey, you have to go up and CS those 3 last minions. I don't think he can do that. So it will be a slight advantage here for Jingdong Gaming. I think they will kind of just back up and play kind of defensive in that situation. Very unfortunate here. Hope we can get into game as soon as possible.
Yeah, just try and wait it out for as long as possible, because Jingdong Gaming, wow, that was really difficult to say, are still in a super strong situation right now. Like, their first blood tower, they managed to get all the dragons, they're just significantly far ahead in terms of gold. So, to be honest, this game 1 seems almost locked down for JD Gaming already.
For Suning Gaming, I feel like you kind of take this break. Oh, they can't communicate during break.
No.
So, well, they can each come up with a good solution, and when they go back to stage, backstage,
they'll discuss it.
Yeah, they'll discuss it. They'll be like, okay, tell me, what were you thinking about during the pauses? So, yeah.
Well, it is going to take us a bit of time to get the Chrono Break running, so we are going to send it over back to the analyst desk to get us through some of this time.
Thank you very much, Boss. We are going to get into that game as soon as we can. During this time for us, you know, we've been hanging out here, you know, going through Twitter,
We've been hanging out with
the Mandarin casters have been, you know, looking over here from time to time, asking what the heck's going on. They've been asking where the cheerleaders are. They want us to go and dance as well.
Apparently, they wanted Milla to go down and be a cheerleader, and I actually agree with it. I think we should bring the cheerleaders back on, get Wawa on stage.
There we go. Perfect way to fill the time. I mean, we still have tons of people sticking around here at the arena waiting for this pause to, you know, resolve. We're going to go into a chrono break. This probably is going to be the first chrono break of the year, almost.
At least in the LPL. That said, I do agree with Clement. I do want to echo his sentiment. Unfortunately, you know, it sucks for both teams. We're only going back, I believe, 10 seconds, 19-17, so before the gank took place. But I do agree it does benefit JD Gaming, because now they'd be like, I guess we should probably just back up here. That's fine, and then continue on with their lead.
Yeah, and unfortunately for SNG Gaming, that, as Clement mentioned as well, as Pulse mentioned, I believe, right afterwards, that probably would have taken them some time to set up as well. We'll have to see how that pans out. You know, they could probably force the issue still and just charge straight in as soon as the, you know, the game unpauses.
I mean, to play devil's advocate, unfortunately, Suning also kind of dug themselves into a hole. So while it is never a great circumstance to have to go through this and to give a team effectively a second chance at avoiding a gank, there's still the fact of the matter that Suning decided to early level invade onto a Kha'ZIx, got first blooded, lost priority control over mid lane because suddenly Zoe is now an early level 6 running around with a free kill, and then their tower drops incredibly early. So while the situation is unfortunate, it still stands that Suning have already put themselves in quite a deep hole before this even came about.
The best part about that was we can actually take a look at those plays that were made, and we'll try and get them up as soon as we can, but this is really, you know, set pace for this match. And it was from this. Why is he in this jungle?
Yeah, because if you take a look on the map, he doesn't have eyes of anyone. And I'm sorry, Tian, that's not a mouse problem, that's a brain problem.
Ooh.
You walked right into it, and that's what happens. It gives away control over the mid lane. Now you see that Zoe has priority to rotate, and the casters talked about this, that a Gangplank never gets punished. Well, it gets that much easier when everyone has an EXP advantage, multiple ultimates available there, while poor little GP is only level 5. From bad to worse, it's doubled down, and the very first tower to drop is the Ornn tower, which means now you have a very early unlocked multi-man ultimate roaming around the map. And that's even before you take a look at the bottom side of the map, which is Varus Janna, which should have been kind of the fast push lane, so you unlock your team fighting power that early, and you know that your Janna Varus are going to be fine anyway.
Yeah, top die, jungle die now, everyone's just dying across the rift here. And I know when that play happened, you were just going, he had one job.
He had one job!
One job! Sejuani had one job, that was not to die. Don't go invading into a jungler against a jungler like Kha'ZIx.
Yeah,
who does that?
It's Ryze, Gangplank, and Sejuani on the top side of the map. So naturally, you know that you're just going to be playing defensively. You're there to secure vision. You're there to kind of scout out, figure out where Kha'ZIx is, and just create a safety net for your laners, and then look for ganking opportunities later on when more power becomes available to you, either through itemization or through levels, particularly the post-level 6 Gangplank. But Tian gets a little bit too aggressive, a little bit too antsy, and really pays his team for it.
Yeah, certainly does. Now, Suning, you know, they're really far behind Jingdong Gaming in this match. And Jingdong, you know, they are the favorites going into this match. They are currently top of the table. Yes, Sinning are not too far behind. Currently sitting third, 2-1 on the ladder, just behind IG. But still, in this match, is there a way for Sinning to come back? Because that gank looked like it was going to be how they got back into the game a little bit at least.
I mean, there's always going to be a hope simply because of their composition. You know, given enough time, if they're able to acquire those items, they're still a very scary team. You've got the Ryze, you have the Gangplank, and this is even before you start, you know, involving Sejuani as real things like that. So, yes, the problem is it's kind of like, when would you be able to grab back hold of the reins? And you're looking at kind of mid-game, although it's probably going to be a later mid-game because the game is snowballing very quickly, or you're looking for picks. So it's either how are they going to take control of the vision, like which side of the map are they going to choose? This is our strong side of the map. And right now it does seem to be the bottom side, simply because Gangplank's like, I've got a free open lane, I need to farm out anyway, can you guys deal? Like, I'll throw you an ultimate occasionally, but otherwise I'm sticking right here. And so now it's just about Suning defensively warding so that they're not caught off guard by Ornn dives, and then trying to either create picks with their own defensive vision, making sure their jungle's cleared out, and waiting for Ryze and Ezreal to take over.
Which is exactly where we kind of left off before we went into this chrono break. The fact that they are going into a bottom lane dive, and now we know this really affects them, and it was XiaoAL's keyboard issue, so it's on the same team that this has really affected them by. But how do they move forward from this? Because that was pretty much one of the Hail Mary plays that Suning were trying to throw.
This is, if I was coaching a team and they were kind of in a situation, this is probably one of the most important situations that teams need to learn, and it's okay. You've fallen behind, things are getting snowballed out of control. You don't actually get a lot of experience with situations like this, because when this happens in scrims, chances are everyone's like, next, and you just hard advance to the next game. So you don't get a lot of opportunity to try to make a comeback. The most important aspect is, again, the defensive vision. It's about purchasing earlier control wards, making sure that you're keeping track of the enemy jungle, and if you probably won't have lane priority because they're going to have control over the creep waves, have the experience, the item lead, and try to bait you into fights. So what you just need to do is just your defensive vision, and more importantly, denying enemy vision within your jungle or the safe areas that you can go to, and then you just kind of hunker down and try to deflate or trade when possible.
So we'll have to see if they're able to do just that when we get back into the game. As we mentioned, there is a chrono break going on due to a peripheral issue, and that's with XiaoAL's keyboard topside of map. XiaoAL and Tian, come on, man. These are your gaming peripherals. What's going on? How come things break?
Yeah, I don't know. It's really unfortunate.
Oh, unfortunate, but stuff happens. I was going to say something that was probably not too nice for you, but, you know, stuff happens from time to time for Oscar, and these things do happen. Going back and going away from this game again, I know we had a really long chat about the meta, really long chat about, you know, runes, masteries, or there's no more masteries anymore, just runes. But one thing I really want to talk about are the champions again in the LPL, because I believe we've seen some really unique picks. I want to get your thoughts on them. We've seen picks like Xin in the jungle, which was kind of interesting to watch the other day. Yes, he's still a little bit bugged, and that was funny to watch. But we have some unique picks like Lulu in the mid lane, Xin in the jungle. We are one of the few regions that have been playing Vayne quite frequently, and how these picks are starting to crop up now.
We talked a little bit about the Vayne, and I kind of feel the same about the Zhao as well as the Lulu picks, or more of the French picks, and it's just the fact that a lot of our players have pretty interesting champion pools, and if you're known for a champion, chances are that you're going to trust them and allow them to have it. FireLily, of course, being the Zhao player. We did even get the Chinese solo kill build with Static Shiv second, and it worked in game number 1, unfortunately didn't work throughout the rest of that series. But in terms of, as we continue to experiment, I still think that it's interesting because historically the LPL has actually been quite unique on its picks. We were the first region to do any support. We were the first region to do Pantheon jungle. We were the first region to do Smite top lane with Flandre and then Shyvana. If everyone remembers that terrible meta that ruled the day for so long. But hold on. I think I got the cue.
The producer's been telling us that. Unfortunately, we are still waiting for this chrono break issue to resolve. We're going to go into a very quick break, and as soon as we get back from that, hopefully it'll be resolved, and we'll be able to get back into the match between Suning Gaming and Jinnon Gaming.
这个位置没有勾到墙壁，导致二段出不来。小五这边选择上，直接被海克斯的图点给做住，极寒地狱两段打出来，一技能还没出手，闪现过去，骗了一下老刘的线刀，再丢大招，正好就是兵线倒6，细节完美这波。上路的墨鱼打出一个守大龙的奇迹吗？这波他们是不想放的，球放下去。 波比赚起一个大锤，能不能把打野给锤走？锤走的话就有机会拼伤害，一击拿到了！看一下是那个发现了，龙打得很快， 危机这波打得非常果断，烧粉一口进去抢到了，哇！大招坐下，虽然是自己死了，但是这个剩下队友是可以选择先撤退的。韦恩将 TP 过来进场，打出天使去闪现一个2点做到了4个人，韦恩直接是配合队友点掉了对面的沙皇，标物也要被收掉，哇！第一时间烧粉进去抢到大了。 就是比赛的时候还上 OP 点去抢，
没有那么墨守成规吧？这边一过来打一套，打出了被动的一个盾，
闪掉了1技能，这波出贝就在后面，直接给一个海克斯最后通牒做到。看一下夕阳这边是利用自己的金身，利用自己的一个 Q 技能，
但是打
再回一点血，我闪掉了一个 Q 技能，后续出贝的伤害好像不太够杀夕阳，但是打出了一个被动以后，这个破冰的额外法术伤害拿下来，但夕阳还有闪现。
这一波先是一个2连 Q 打了一个真实伤害，然后当时喵想要开大招回头反打，但这时候发现自己血量已经被打太残了，打不了。劳伦特新高跟闪现一起交，没有后续的反击技能。说的了。
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, we still don't have any updates just yet on the Chrono Break, and as soon as we know what's going on, we'll be able to let you guys know. As soon as that's done, we'll get back into the game. And you know, it's almost as if, you know, our producer gave us a break because the Mandarin casters got a break as well. They've been talking for years though, FLICKR. I mean, we have Pulse and Clement just sitting over there, so whenever, you know, we need assistance, we can just throw it over there, they can throw it back to us. But those two, they're the real soldiers right now.
My favorite thing is that they wear a dress shirt on top and then they've got their tie, but the bottom of them is all casual. And they've been standing up, they've been stretching, they've gone both ways over this way, they've been leaning back on the rail, they turn around, they've been dancing.
They've been talking to us.
It looks like they've been doing charades over there.
They were talking to us. They saw one of us dancing and they're like, oh, they started dancing as well. They started talking about the cheerleaders, asking them to come back, jump on the stage to fill some time. But we will get into the game as soon as we can. I've been told at any given notice we can jump in and back onto the match, and we'll let you guys know when we can. And you know, before
Do you need a chrono break? Are you okay?
I need a chrono break right now. Someone called him. Get him over here. But you know, when we're coming out of the break there, we were watching that new climb animation, and because we climb cinematic, I should say, and because we're always talking about the games, you know, we're always talking about the players and the teams, we barely get a chance to actually just talk about League of Legends, because that cinematic is so damn cool. It is amazing to watch. It's probably one of the best ones that Riot's produced so far.
Hard agree. I think the how deep do you want to get in this?
Let's go all the way.
Okay. I studied animation in school. It's actually what I went for college for. And anytime I see the Riot cinematics, I love that we do so many different types of styles. Like you look at the project animation, you look at the old school like 2013 Worlds, Korra-esque animation when we had the professional players as the champions, and then you look at that sick new cinematic, and I look at that one, I'm like, wow, the textures and the models are absolutely gorgeous on this. Looking how Echo, like how his hair moves and how beautiful it is when he's trying to, pull out, and so good.
Yeah, it certainly is a great cinematic, and with that we don't get much time to ever talk about League of Legends in general. So Frostgren, how did you start playing League of Legends?
My roommate actually got a beta key, and I had never touched a PC game in my life. I was exclusively a console gamer because I used to be really big into the Mario Kart local competitive scene, specifically Double Dash. I'm really good at Mario Kart, by the way, which everyone says like, I bet I could beat you at Mario Kart.
Yeah.
People play me for like 2 minutes, like, nah, this isn't good.
I'm pretty sure every caster in our team now has seen you play Mario Kart. We now understand never play Mario Kart against Frostgren.
Yeah, but
doesn't end well.
It does not end well. But my roommate really got me into League of Legends. Like, no, you should play it, and we didn't really understand how the champion system worked. That they rotated in. He thought that once a champion was in, that was it forever. So we ended up buying like Kale multiple times. So we didn't want her to go away and never have access to her. But it was Nidalee actually. He goes, you should play Nidalee. This champion turns into a cat. I was like, turns into a cat? I'm a crazy cat lady. Let's go.
Well, your Chinese nickname is Cat Cat.
It is Cat Cat.
Yeah, and we actually have that in the English casters intro coming into the LPL for Cat Cat. I took a really similar path to you though. I was a console player. I played a lot of Halo. I played a lot of Street Fighter as well. And then a couple of my friends moved over and started playing League of Legends and StarCraft. And like, come join me.
Before you get into this, there's something people need to know about you, Fish. You are literally, he is literally the most competitive person I've ever met. We'll pick up like a game randomly. We'll be like, let's play a fun Steam game together just for like team bonding. And what Fish will do is he'll grind it like in the dead of night, like 14 hours. And we'll just be like, oh, we're here for a fun game. And Fish will just flex on all of us. It's no longer fun then, Fish.
Dude, I still remember when we were back in the Oceanic office, back when Atlas was still with us, casting the OPL as well as the LPL. There was a fun little game that was released called Brawlhalla. We all started playing that. And it got to a point where I started using a lot of cheesy, dirty tactics. And Atlas literally was like...
He's like checking the streams, figuring out what the tiers of the characters are.
Atlas literally we get into a game, we play, and I use all those tactics and I win. And then Atlas just goes, all right, if Fish is in this match, I am not playing this game. I'm done. I am done. No one wanted to play Brawlhalla with me anymore. But yeah, I started playing console games, was a big Halo player. Then a friend of mine, told me to come jump onto StarCraft. And then from there we went to League of Legends. And
Didn't you have a stint in FIFA?
No, that was in between. I quit League of Legends. That's another story. I don't think we have enough time to get into that. I quit League of Legends for 2 years and had a stint in FIFA. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, they brought me into League of Legends. I played about 3,000 games of Annie, and then from there just started playing League of Legends in general.
And what's interesting about Fish is he's actually, you're very unique. You're kind of like Flowers, where you're a high solo queue or high ELO play-by-play caster. We don't actually have a lot of those. Typically, play-by-play casters used to be on the lower spectrum. I know Pulse, I see you over there. Chill out. Pulse like throws his hands up. He's like waving down an aircraft carrier.
Pulse and Clement are sizing up right now.
But Pulse and Fish are high ELO play-by-play casters. Now the reason why I don't get Pulse credit is because he plays Alawi and Urgot, and playing 2 champions doesn't count, you boosted animal. But Fish plays pretty much everything.
What?
And, no,
I play Misfortune. That's all I play.
He actually plays like everything. And the thing is Fish is much better than me mechanically at the game, and so I get really frustrated because I watch Fish play and I'm like, he's so brain dead, but he does so well. I hate it.
I think
I'm terrible at this game.
The best game I've ever played was back in the Oceanic office when I was playing a solo queue game. I got auto-filled to jungle and I was like, Indiana, help me. I don't know what to do, and you stood behind me and just coached me and told me
what we should do. We should do tandem mode. No, I'm serious. We're gonna get an account. I'm just gonna be your brain, sit next to you, and you're just gonna press the buttons. It's perfect.
Oh boy, but that's kind of how I stopped playing in a high-level League of Legends. I got to my Challenger promos. This is back when I was still working.
He is actually that good. He's not even kidding.
No.
He's actually very good.
I used to be okay. I was never great. This is just solo queue. Remember, solo queue, it's not that competitive. I got into my Challenger promos for the first time when I was still living in Singapore and working for Garena at the time. And won 2 games, duo queued with one of the pro players back in Singapore to try and win the 3rd game, and finally get into Challenger for the first time. Lost. got back into promo and said, well, that guy's a boosted animal. I'm not going to do a queue of him. Got into my 2 games, and then he got into the opposite team for my next 3 matches. And destroyed me in every single match. And then I went on a 33-game losing spree and quit League of Legends for a year and a half.
That's a hard rage quit. No, I feel you. I was going for my my Diamond promos, and I got stuck with a bunch of OPL professional players in my game.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and then they saw me, and then they just camped my lane. I was getting ganked at like 4 minutes by 5 people. I was like, great, thanks, guys.
Well, we've duo-queued player together and played against...
Is that when we ran into Juice?
We ran into Juice,
yeah.
and Juice was not happy after the whooping we gave him in solo queue. He came in to play an OPL game, I think 2 days later, and just saw us, and he was like, no, not having any of this.
Got the silent treatment in the office.
Yeah, now producers are telling us that we're boosted. We'll take them on any day.
He can talk a lot of smack. I laned next to him, and there are some questionable choices, Mr. Producer back there.
He is the producer of this
My
show.
My mic suddenly cuts.
We have the microphone right now. We have the ones on there. But yeah, it's a lot. It's really interesting because we come on and we talk about League of Legends all the time, especially towards the pro scene. But it's very rare you actually get to sit down with casters and actually talk about League of Legends in general, and actually playing the game, because we're always so focused on the esports side of things that you really forget that there's a whole nother part of League of Legends that's available.
Yeah, that we're all just obsessed geeks, and what we do is we talk about and watch League of Legends all day, and then we immediately go home towards the office, and then we stay up till like 3 AM playing solo queue, wondering why we do this to ourselves. And there's just a point where you push back from your desk like, I don't even like this game. I don't even like this anymore. And the next day you're doing it again.
Next day you're coming straight back, doing it again. Then you're going straight on air talking about League of Legends. Like, I really like talking about this thing. I don't understand what I was doing yesterday. You repeat.
And it's not just us. I've played with the EU guys. I've had Deficio and Draco. I had Dracos most recently on my team. That guy is a muppet. Let me tell you about the Kane-only jungler.
Sounds like Spawn.
Oh,
Good old Jake Spawn Tiberi. He'll pick up the newest champion that's released and he just plays that. Been told now he plays Alistar mid and Kane only.
He plays Alistar support with Smite, which can actually work now because of Unsealed Spellbook, which is just scary, but this guy would just run straight AP, smite your creep, and then just like peace out of your lane, and then just start one-shotting people.
Oh, he's someone we miss dearly on the LPL. He was one of the original LPL casters, still back in Australia. Hello, Jake Spawn Tiberi. Yeah, but unfortunately didn't make the move over with us. He's still casting the OPL though, but now he's a play-by-play caster for Oscar. What the heck's going on?
To be fair, that is every color caster's dream. I know that like Dom is sick right now, and Pulse and Raz, Pulse and Fish are trying to pull like the hero play-by-plays, which you had some incredible calls yesterday, Fish.
Thank you.
But I'm secretly, I'd show up to every meeting. I'm like, please let me play-by-play today. Like I know I'm awful at it, but it's so much fun.
Look, we got a message from you in WeChat this morning, being like, I can step in if I have to play.
I'm ready, coach.
We have clips of you play-by-play casting for Oscar.
It wasn't
you were play-by-play casting Jay Cho playing Leona.
Okay.
Look.
A hard 4 out of 10. Yeah.
4 out of 10 is pretty generous.
That was bad.
But yeah, what else can we talk about? Because we still have some time. I mean, we had the Mandarin casters talking about cheerleading, talking about dancing. Like, how do you enjoy Shanghai so far?
Oh, I love it. So we can actually talk about our boarding house.
Oh boy.
So all of the casters live together. We do work together, we play League of Legends together, and we all live together. We've got 2 different apartments, and we have 3 casters in each one. I believe Clement was the only one that escaped.
No, he didn't. He dogged us. Clement was meant to join us, and he was like, nah.
He dogged the boys.
I'm getting my own place. I want to live alone. And then, he's just Clement.
So it's Dom, Raz, and Pulse in one house, which I have no idea how that house hasn't burned to the ground yet, in all honesty. And then it's Fish, Rusty, and me in the other house. And it's interesting. Their house is like really Japanese themed. They've got like an exposed rock wall and nice hardwoods, and ours is more like the British, like Victorian themed house. But we live in the same complex. We can like walk to each other's apartments, and so man, we do everything together. How have we not killed each other yet?
We probably have a few times.
But it's just so nice because like our view is amazing. Like being able to open up our windows and we basically have like a Shanghai cityscape right there, and then all of the amazing restaurants that are close, and any type of food that you can ever imagine. Some of the best Chinese food I've ever had, and a lot of really good like Western food.
I still have the I got given my room because when you and Rusty moved in, I was still away on vacation, and then I just got given the last room that was available. And so my view is literally a view of my desk.
The office.
I can see my desk in the office from my window. and that tilts me so much.
I'm just saying, get a zip line.
Get a zip line.
One-way zip line. The office is higher. You can just put it down in your bedroom. That would be a great ride, Fish.
Oh no. So, but besides, you know, living in Shanghai, one thing I want to touch on is the difference between our house and like the house that Rusty, Pulse, and Dom are living in. Like Pulse, Raz, and Dom. Pulse, Raz, and Dom live in like a really communal-based house. Like they're always in the living room. You know, it's nicely set up.
We never
They've got great like furniture. Like it's all set up. It's really homely, really cozy. And then we're just always in our room.
You come into our house, there's like a random box, and then it's just like really quiet and cold. I think our house sits at 13 degrees Celsius right now. And oh, Rusty's blanket. So our house is freezing because we're never home, so we don't feel the need to turn on any heat. So Rusty and I just ordered a bunch of blankets off of JD actually, and Rusty didn't realize what he was ordering. He got like this mermaid blanket, and so you look inside his room and it's just like classic boys' room, like some clothes on the floor and everything looks pretty masculine, but then there's this bright pink, like with seashells on it, some sort of comforter.
He also tried to get some bath mats for the
shower,
the
Hello Kitty?
And then he got Hello Kitty bath mats. I still don't understand. By the way, we're taking questions from Twitch, and someone's asked you a question, Indiana. Who is your favorite player in the LPL?
Really? How does no one ever know this one?
Everyone has to know this.
Everyone does have to know this. My favorite player in the LPL is ClearLove, and the reason why it is ClearLove is because when I first started casting in 2014, that was kind of ClearLove's resurgence. I mean, he started obviously in Team WE in 2012, but that was when the rise of EDG came about. And I just really loved ClearLove's story. He reminds me a lot of Hai, and it's always very unfortunate because I feel like the Western audience has a bad rap for ClearLove. They don't really understand his story as well because the snippets that they get of him are his worst failures, unfortunately. And what's really devastating to me is that at MSI 2015, the famous EDG win over SKT, a lot of that narrative, which it was a phenomenal cast, not trying to take away from that, I thought DeFicio did a great job there, was the counter of FLICKR. You know, it was FLICKR's undefeated LeBlanc.
Big Morgana pick in the mid lane.
And the Morgana pick and the Alistar pick and the brilliance of that. But underneath all of that, it was ClearLove playing Evelynn, which was his legacy champion. When ClearLove picks Eve, it's him saying, "This is on me. Trust me." And you can see it if you go back and watch the VODs. You can see, you know, Coach Aaron sets his hand on ClearLove's shoulder. And he's kind of giggling. It's looking back and forth. So for a hardcore ClearLove fan watching that game, it was, you know, it's FLICKR's undefeated LeBlanc versus ClearLove's signature Evelynn. These two titans of the game that have just gone to superstar status facing off, and ClearLove didn't back down, and he won the game with Evelynn. And what's unfortunate is we may never see ClearLove rise to that same success point again. I mean, EDG keep choking at Worlds, they keep dropping, you know, this time in groups, previously at quarterfinals. That might have been it, really, to celebrate for him. And he really didn't get that sweet, you know, final narrative moment to the Western audience, like, holy shit, I did it.
And if you want to try and find that actual moment that FLICKR was talking about, I believe LOL Esports released a mic check after that MSI, and you can see the exact moment where FLICKR picks up LeBlanc, and, you know, SKT is surprised that it's left open, they lock it in instantly, and that exact moment where the coach goes up to are you sure? And the exact response to the player is like, trust me. And that was a very historical moment, and kind of like the rise and fall for China. We can go into that for a long time. But one other question we're getting here is, hello. I randomly have Pulse trying to sneak in behind me. I could see him. I could see him.
The best part, because of his hair, he just looks like a shark. It's like dun-dun, dun-dun. It's like Rek'Sai. No. There's this famous comedian. Are you just slipping in here?
Yeah, Pulse is just joining us.
Just sit on my lap next time, like.
I'm trying to get over to the position we have for 3 people here. But
we having a party over here?
I could see it happening. I was like, okay, Pulse is going to try and sneak onto the side of the desk.
They're going to take a close-up.
And, you know, we're going to get a close-up of me. I'm just going to try and fill. And then I just see on the side of my, just this hair moving behind me.
Well, you see,
like, welcome, Pulse.
Our
hello.
producer was like, we'll keep it on a tight shot. They'll never notice. I was looking at the program and it was just like, I was just bobbing along and I was like, well, I guess I'm here now, aren't I?
But this is perfect because now you get to see kind of like the strings behind the show. Whenever it's on it just swapped back, but whenever it's on like a shot like that where it's tight on someone, chances are that the person who's not on screen is like fumbling with their headset.
There've been multiple times. So the cord behind my microphone is not clipped in right now, which means whenever I turn it snags. So every time that camera has gone, the Frost can be like, get it off of me. Trying to get it rid of it. But welcome, Pulse.
Hey,
how you joining us in
That's pretty good, man. I was getting bored over there with Clement. It's like, because every time you're talking about, no, there's not. Because when you talk about a topic, I'd be like, hey, Clement, you know, how's your house like? And he's just like, well, I live by myself. I was like, all right, great, Clement. Like, so I come over here with you guys.
Yeah, well, we got another question coming in for Twitch, and we had two coming in, so I think we can combine them together. The first one was what champion do you really want to see become part of the meta? But another one just came in is what is your favorite champion and why? We're not going to start with Pulse. Indiana, what's your favorite champion and why? And do you want to see that champion become meta?
Jinx and Jinx. My favorite champion is Jinx because I'm an AD carry main, and I feel like Jinx from an aesthetic design fits her playstyle the best. So the fact that she's like a trickster, that she's supposed to go in and out, be very chaotic. I feel like you actually get that when you're playing Jinx. I just think she's super awesome to watch. Like it used to be in 2014 EDG, the famous composition was the Nunu Jinx comp, and Clearlove would go into the big Nunu ultimate, and then on the absolute zero, Name would start proccing the Jinx passive and just be zipping around, and no one could catch him because he was standing on top of the giant slow. I just thought it was super cool to watch.
Why'd you pick a champion that sucks?
What? hey, the Jinx has been played in the LPL.
It has actually been played once, yeah. How did that go, Fish?
I don't know. How did your ADC games go?
No comment.
Which is your favorite champion? Is it still Alawi?
Thematically, I think like Nautilus, Leona, I find to be very thematically interesting champions. But yeah, still like Alawi, Urgot is like what I enjoy playing.
Okay,
yeah.
well, mine's still gonna be Annie. I even have like Tibbers tattooed to my arm now. That's how much I really enjoyed playing.
That's a commitment. I also get a tentacle down my
arm. Yeah, just got like a full like Nakamura. Is that what I call? Like a full like tribal Nakamura.
The whole like idol. That would be sick. Yeah.
I was actually really excited when Tabe picked up Annie at Worlds and kind of made that a meta champ before I was support. So I was a little bit sad, but still, it was pretty cool to watch. And I just realized something. As I can see, the game is actually starting.
Oh, well,
Well, Pulse is over here now. Pulse, go get back to the casting table. I'll see you in a bit. Indiana, we're going to go back into this game. All we can see right now is what is behind us.
So, just to catch everyone back up, this is effectively what happened. They tried to invade level early on Sejuani into Kha'ZIx. Kha'ZIx severely punished them. Zoe got ahead, and then they've been pivoting around Ornn and Zoe.
We are going to go and get into the game as soon as we can. So let's send it back to Pulse and Clement to take us through this game.
Thank you so much, guys. I've made it back over here with my homeboy, Clement. What's going on, Clement?
I'm your homeboy now?
I don't even live conversation, with you. Clement.
Okay. But we're getting back in the game. So, apparently, Jingdong did not die to that gank. Surprise.
Yes, so we had the chrono break. It was about 7 to 9 seconds that we had on that one, so we went back to exactly 19 minutes and 12 seconds, I believe. Yeah, 19 seconds and 12 seconds. So, the gank never happened. We had the pathing towards bot side from Suning, and now they just have to try and find what else to do with that pressure.
Oh, there's
everyone just engaged.
Top lane.
Just kidding. Top lane, we're going to have Zoom right now being initiated on by XiaoAL, trying to pick up this kill, because right now XiaoAL very far down. Knight's going to pick up the kill.
Good play over there. You know, they have this... You know, you can really see the team chemistry coming out of chrono breaks. They have the better chemistry. They're already on their feet, setting up the play right there, catching Jingdong off guard, and taking Zoom down for a shutdown.
Yeah, so the first kill of the game. At least we're not going to have a perfect game now out from JD Gaming versus Suning. So he did manage to get that one kill back. To recap for anyone who has just joined us, JD have complete control over the map. 2 towers, they got First Blood Tower as well. Top lane is pretty much unkillable. Loken just killed bot lane as well. And they are just incredibly strong across the map because of what was facilitated by Clid, Yagao, and Zoom.
Yeah, Jingdong was very far ahead in the early game. They dived top lane twice. XiaoAL was down 40 CS at the 10-minute mark. And now we can see Suning kind of clawing their way back in. We said before the break that their way in was going to be that Sejuani gank, and they did get that in the top lane.
Yes, he managed to make it work in the end and try and catch this Gangplank back up. You know what, Clement? We were sat at 18 minutes and we're like, he's only got that Triforce. Now he's got 2.5 items. This is how crazy Gangplank is. He got demolished in lane. He got dove twice, he got killed multiple times, pushed out of lane, down and farm. Now he's caught back and he's still super strong anyways.
But we see Clid coming in here.
Yeah, Knight's going to get caught out. Oh, the paddle star. Going to go into that Zhonya's Hourglass though and jump on out, so Knight is safe.
Going back on the Gangplank, yes, he was very far behind in lane, but he also had a lot of time to catch up. What Suning was basically doing is telling XiaoAL, okay, we know we're behind, just farm it up. And they let Zoom roam all over the map, and that's why you see the 5 kills on Jingdong. That was, basically that Ghost Blade was paid for in blood by Suning.
Oh yeah, 100%. JD actually putting wards down around the Baron area now. We are 22 minutes in, so there is actually a possibility for JD Gaming to go towards that. Suning all going towards what I'm going to dub as the SOFM bush. Clid walking into... Oh, he's very much showed himself. He's going to jump out with a leap and manage to get out alive, though that was the fissure being used by Yoon.
Yeah, that was very clean from Clid. Actually gets an ultimate out from Braum, so they're going to be able to push into this quadrant of the map and get that vision that they didn't get the first run.
Yeah, now just clearing out these mini waves, trying to push out these waves pretty much from Suning, trying to get out there and at least place some vision around the Baron so they can contest it. But it does look like Loken and Clid going to start this one off.
There is a ward there, and I
should
don't...
be disabled, no?
I don't think there's a disabled icon, so Suning... Oh, there is.
Yeah, has been spotted out regardless by Fury's ultimate. They're going to go back onto it once again. Tian's literally over the wall. There is no vision for JD over the wall of Baron Pit, so they don't know Tian is available to steal right now. Gangplank ultimate's doing a lot of damage. Tian's going to go with the initiation, but it's a little too soon. He's still in the pit, though, so this is going to turn to a 50-50. It's going to go over to Clid with the secure. Tian goes down.
That was actually a terrifying play from Jingdong right there. Now, these are two very green teams, and we often see them going for very needless macro mistakes, and I would call that a macro mistake right there. They were taking a 50-50 against SNG. You can look at Tian's level. He's level 12, so that's the same level Smite. You have a Gangplank ult coming down on you at the same time. You're so far ahead of the game. You don't really need to risk that, but, you know, props to them. They still got the Baron.
Yeah, I've still got the Baron, but 50-50s are not really what I like to see,
you don't want to
especially
take
against
that right
this team.
there.
Because you're going into a scaling comp from Suning Gaming at the end of the day, and we were like, I don't know how I feel about this, especially because it is Suning, but if they do get the Baron, they get time to stall, then GP gets big, and Ryze gets time to scale, so that could have gone pear-shaped very, very quickly.
Yeah, and they're really lucky to have been able to smite that Baron away. Good job from Clid right there. That could have gotten Suning Gaming back into the game. But since that didn't happen, we're going to talk in our new timeline. And we can see Jingdong, now with the Baron buff, is going to push down these towers fairly easily. I feel like Suning Gaming is probably going to be relegated all the way to their high ground.
Yeah, well, Fury just loses half his health because that went past Braum's shield. Mid lane trying to clear that one out with the two-shot barrage, but the constant poke from Yagao making it so difficult to step up. And you got Varus coming in here. This is a very difficult competition to play against when they are sieging your towers. Towers about down to half. Another Braum put to sleep. Lots of damage onto Clid though, courtesy of Knight, but the poke just keeps on coming.
Good damage over there. I feel like Jingdong Gaming doesn't need to push too hard there. They still have a fresh bot lane tier 2 turret that they can rotate into. So I'm not sure why they're trying to force this issue so hard, especially when they don't have minion waves.
And to be fair, because they are so far ahead, I think they'll manage to make it happen regardless. Redemption coming down will heal Clid back up to full, or at least half. Yagao managed to dodge out of the flail there from Tian, who's trying to find his flank off to the side. Does have his ultimate available, but has lost all his health, so he probably has to go back to base now.
That's a 50% chunk there coming out from Jingdong Gaming. Just from Yagao, he's very far ahead in this game, as we can see. But ultimately, that was a successful defense from Suning Gaming. And now it's a bit too late for Jingdong to actually rotate into this bot lane tower.
And Zoom's going to be pushing up here along with Yagao, looking for these sleepy trouble bubbles. And Zoom's so tanky, it doesn't even look like he's taking any damage from these tower shots. Trying to buff up the Baron minions once again, and looking now at a two-pronged assault, as Loken is actually still staying in that mid lane, pushing in that minion wave. Zoom stepping up, but there is still very decent wave clear coming from Suning against his Baroned up minion wave.
I would say this is a bit of a missed opportunity from Jingdong. They didn't really punish any of Suning Gaming's cooldowns now that they're missing a lot of their ultimates. Overall, I feel like the mid lane push was a bit too optimistic. They could have gotten the bot lane very easily.
Well, luckily there is a massive minion wave mounting on the top side of the map as well, so JD will have something to rotate towards if mid lane doesn't work out. Though over time, Yagao is constantly getting these paddle stars to hit the intended target. So maybe if one does happen to hit Fury, maybe it hits Knight, you might be able to push in for this one. But the minion wave is about to crash, and one more minion wave in top.
This is the last minion wave where Suning doesn't have their cooldown, so if Jingdong Gaming really want to make a play, it's going to be now.
Gonna give it a shot. There's the ultimate coming in from Varus. Chains of Corruption will land. Follow up as well from Zoom. Braum very low, tosses out the fissure, and he's trapped mid-air as well, put to sleep. Comes back down, instantly dies. Knight will try and teleport back to his double Nexus turrets. Zoom is zoning away the whole enemy team though. Lots of damage onto Tian. Middle inhibitor falls in top lane, easy rotation.
That was great timing from Yagao right there. Stops Yoon from really blocking the Ornn ultimate. Ornn ultimate allowed to go through the entire composition, and they play around the cooldowns very well. That was the last minion wave where Suning Gaming did not have their ultimate, so Jingdong just hops right in and gets 2 objectives right there.
Yeah, Jingdong just increasing their lead exponentially at this point as they go back to base, get to spend all of that gold. That's going to be the 3rd AD carry item picked up there from Loken. Actually going towards a Ruby Crystal here as well. Pretty much gearing up towards this last fight before they even end game 1.
And now looking at the map, what Jingdong Gaming can decide to do is just clean up their jungle, wait until the 29-minute mark. This is and then take the Drake. If they take the Drake after 29 minutes, then the next Drake will respawn as an Elder Drake, and that would be very beneficial for Jingdong. They don't have to take the Drake right away. They can wait a little while and then set up for the Elder Drake play.
Yeah, they could play it slow here against Suning. However, they do still have those scalers on the other side to be cognizant of. You know, XiaoAL, he's now hit 3 items. You've got mid lane, just hit 3 items as well. Seraph's Embrace just completed from Knight. So at some point, you know, as soon as the tide starts swinging back towards Suning, it will be hard to catch back up again. However, with the massive gold lead that JD have accumulated, seems like a pipe dream.
That's, you know, it's kind of a... I would still wait for the 29-minute mark, because then you get another Drake that isn't the Elder Drake, and I feel like that kind of slows down your game pacing. You're not putting as many threats on the map as you would have liked, but Jingdong still opt into the Ocean Drake there.
Yeah, they still take it down. Suning Gaming moving towards the top side. Zoom is very tanky, so they have to hope that they have the damage. He's down to half right now. Ornn comes out, going to get the knock up onto Ryze, but they do manage to finish him off. Tian, very, very tanky. That was 3 members committed to the top side of the map. JD, 4-man strong, will be able to knock down the inner turret here. We're looking at those recalls now from Suning.
Yep, and when the 5v4, they should be able to defend this high ground. Shouldn't be too much of a problem for them.
Gonna try to round down to half. Ultimate comes out from Braum to clear out the minion wave. Fury dropped down very low out from Yagao. Now just tapping away at this tower without the minions, waiting for this one to come in. XiaoAL's actually in top lane right now, looking for that recall.
For Suning Gaming, they really need to keep their tanks in the front line at this point. I believe the Sejuani does have a Warmog, so even if she takes a huge chunk of damage, she can regen that back up.
It looks like Morello's from Yagao though, so actually has that healing reduction for a couple seconds after it hits. It drops to below 35% HP. So it's just timing them out right now. Suning are just getting poked and poked and poked and poked.
Trouble bubble.
It's really annoying to play against. Minion wave coming in at around 10 seconds into the bottom side. Super minions knocking on the front door in the mid. And we're actually still waiting on Zoom as well, who's just respawned. Has to teleport if needed, but we'll just walk on up. He's actually going to teleport to this minion as the tower is targeting it, trying to crack this tower during that time. Now that he's arrived, not sure if Suning really want to defend right here. Might actually have to concede this inhibitor.
Yeah, as a 5-man, it's going to be very difficult, especially when Fury takes another Q to the face.
Yoon doing his best to body block all of these paddle stars coming out from Yagao. Another inhibitor falls. That's 2 down. JD moving towards the top side of the map. Now Baron is also respawned.
Very easy gameplay for Jingdong right here. I'm not even sure what Suning can really do at this point.
Desperation Baron.
I'm not sure they can even venture outside of their base at this point. It's going to be very, very difficult. And you can see Clid even staying around. He knows that he has a chance to pick up stragglers at this point.
Clid just disabling that ward on the way out, going back to base. Means Tian just has to stay around the top side regardless because he doesn't know if JD have started it, just has no information right now. So we'll have to step up, ward it over the wall, hopefully. He's just have one more stack on his Stalker's Blade.
What Suning can do is they can kind of hope for a steal. They have the Braum that can block the Ornn ultimate, which is the main source of the gauge that Jingdong Gaming actually has. So they're relatively safe, just staying on the red side of the jungle and trying to dissuade Jingdong from actually taking the Baron. And this is exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, Zoom just going to be the one to tank up this Baron. Does have the Warmocks himself, so it's not really going to hurt him too much. He's going to go and heal back to full. Again, just trying to clear out this jungle right now, clearing away all the vision that Suning have ventured out and placed down. Going to spot Tian in the bush, though. Not going to be too much damage from Clid. Tian just aware of his presence. And Suning, as you said, Clement, at this point in time, waiting for that miracle steal is pretty much the only way into this game.
Yeah, what Jingdong are waiting for is basically for Suning to have to deal with the bot lane minion wave at this point. It's going to come down to who has to go there and clean that wave up. It doesn't look like Suning actually know for sure that Jingdong Gaming is starting this Baron.
I mean, Zoom is taking negative damage from this Baron, and Loken's just free-firing on it. So Baron's going to die here, and JD take it very smartly, just having multiple members zone away. And that's just enough to zone away all of the members of Suning. They have to go back to base and try and make the final hold at the double Nexus turret.
That was so well done from Jingdong Gaming. They were actually playing a 2v5 on the right side of that Baron, and they were able to zone every single member of Suning Gaming away from that sector. There's just too much pressure coming out from Yagao at this point.
Yep. Yagao, I honestly feel he just should not be allowed Zoe. Like, he's
should
strong
just ban
enough on the meta champions, but then when you give him Zoe on top of that, like, it's just a little bit too much.
Well, they gave him a little bit more than Zoe. They also gave him First Blood, so...
True. Very, very
They also
true.
didn't give him any counterpick. I was really excited to see what Knight had in his back pocket, but nothing really came through.
Yeah, not enough, that's for certain. I mean, maybe he would have done better if Yagao didn't pick up that First Blood onto Tian.
Very
What's
hard
done is
push
done.
here. Clid in the bot lane. Actually has decent wave clear with his W at this point.
And inhibitor low, about to crack Yoon with the initiation. This is pretty much what Suning has to look for. XiaoAL with the ultimate coming down, but Zoom's only down to half. Good block out from Yoon once more. But the tower's about to crack. Loken stepping up to the tower. He's got his team behind him and a shield as well from Mao.
Ooh, Fury blocking for his support right there. Both of them are going to need to go back to the fountain. Could have had better accuracy.
Clid trading off with XiaoAL. He's not going to win that trade against the Fed Gangplank, so he's going to fall here. Maybe the fact that the jungler just died might mean that Suning will look for the hold, or maybe not, because Yoon will lose half his HP, and so will Ezreal. Yoon's going to have to block for him. That was very scary. Double Nexus turrets down, though, and Zoom looking to back off. Some of these members are starting to get chunked.
4v4 situation right now, but both of the Nexus turrets are already down. Fury goes down as well.
Yeah, not gonna happen. Fury is a dead man. Another knockup coming in onto Knight. He's gonna Zhonya's Hourglass and teleport back to base, but unfortunately, the Nexus is what counts, and that one goes down. JD pick up game one.
A super fast and clean game coming out from Jingdong Gaming. It really did feel like Suning was trying to pull something new out of their hat, try opt into a new composition, but we did see the same flaws that we were worried about that we talked in pregame. It's Tian not really being able to hold the pressure from the enemy jungle.
And frankly, we have to call a spade a spade. This is a very difficult game to play for both teams, you know, especially Suning having those problems with the peripherals and then having to continue playing after that is obviously very difficult. Then playing out the rest of the game, that's mentally demoralizing for them.
Yeah, I hope they had a good discussion, or they thought about what they were going to do in game 2, because I really felt like that game was kind of a foregone conclusion at the 18-minute mark or so, when they were like 5-0 and the Gangplank was 40 CS behind.
Yeah.
So I hope they had a lot of time to contemplate on what they actually want to play, and the next time around, I feel like actually in this matchup, it might be very interesting if Knight can go on the blue side, because he also has a Zoe pick.
Yeah, maybe even look for those counter picks and just kind of go for what Suning have been known for so far in the LPL. Either way, we're going to send it over to the analyst desk to take a look at that game.
Thank you very much, Pulse, and I do believe in a few seconds he's going to start crawling over here again, or hopefully not.
The army crawl.
Thank you so much to you guys back at home who are still watching. We're very sorry about the pauses that we had to go through. We hope that you liked our little mini segment there. And normally, after a game, we like to break it down and analyze it a little bit, but it kind of feels like we should recap that, because it has been a long time since we sort of started the game. So let's start with how this game started going in Jingdong's favor. It all started with a little-known champion known as Sejuani, Frostgirl.
Yeah, so Tian on Sejuani, we said it before, I'm going to say it again, that's not a mouse problem. This is actually just a brain problem right there. He tries to invade when he should not be in that jungle and is rightfully punished. Now the problem there is that Zoe is the person who ends up with the first blood, gets the added experience, and suddenly Zoe shows up with Ornn, and they're both level 6. Gangplank normally isn't punished in these types of situations, and that doesn't go unpunished today. The LPL finally recognized that GP as a last pick into an Ornn is susceptible, and they gank him multiple times. So now you've got the mid lane winning, the top lane winning, and it all just snowballs into worse because Ornn's tower is the first one that goes down, and suddenly he is unlocked to be a menace.
And it just leads to plays like this, where Suning tried to fight back, but Yagao's just way too strong, and from here it was slowly just lights out for Suning. It went to a 50-50 Baron play, as our casters were talking about during that game, but eventually they just closed it out against Suning, and there wasn't too much they could do.
Yeah, and I do agree with Clement, that Baron call was incredibly risky. Now that said, a lot of LPL teams, not just Suning and JD who are very green, will also go to that Baron call, and it just goes back to that whole idea that the LPL, we're gamblers. We think that we're just going to bluff you, and so we'll take the 50-50 Baron call, and on the international stage, that can either be our defining feature, or that can be the sword that we fall on, because if we get it, then we snowball like crazy.
And as we were mentioning during the first series of today, there have been so many Baron steals in the LPL, one of which happened today in the last set, where Flawless was able to steal Baron away from RNG, and that swung the game in Rogue Warrior's favor. So it's scary to think that Suning Gaming could have done the exact same thing here today, and there were only 2,000 gold up at that time. That definitely could have swung the game back in their favor.
Absolutely, especially when you look at champions on their composition, like the Gangplank, like the Ryze, the Baron buff would be enough to kind of get them back into a situation of power, which Pulse mentioned it during that cast. GP was already starting to climb back up because, hello, GP.
Well, as we mentioned during the recap as well, it was Sejuani that dived into the jungle, but it was the mid lane pick that picked up all the spoils. Yagao picks up the MVP for that match, rightfully so, on the Zoe, who is still such a frightening champion.
And right now, he is the #1 Zoe player in the LPL, not just because of his moves, but the fact that he keeps getting this champion. He's played it 4 times now in the LPL, and it's like, what is happening? You can also see MVP 4. I wonder which champions he got that on.
Probably all of them on Zoe. And, we talk a lot about Jindong Gaming, how they picked up the victory there. One thing that we really have to recognize, and what's something you and I noticed during the game, was Suning Gaming's mental fortitude. Because they were down 10,000 gold, their Nexus was being destroyed, and we could still hear them cheering and screaming every single time they got a small kill, even as their Nexus exploded.
So we have incredible seats in the LPL arena. We're actually sitting on the very top, and then down below us is the house, and then there's the stage right across from us. And the thing is when the players start yelling, when a team fight starts happening, we can actually hear them. And that's the thing, the fortitude that he's talking about. It's not just the fans, it's also the players. You can hear them, that they're continuously talking through the defeat, and a lot of teams will fall silent.
Yeah, they certainly would, but Suning Gaming were happy to, celebrate their small victories, even if it wasn't going to lead to them actually picking up the match against Jindong Gaming. It still, however, is a best of 3, and Suning, they were not, completely down from the very start of the game. Like Clement was mentioning, and like you said, it came down to a 50-50 Baron at the end of the day that they could have potentially taken. What did it need to change, though, going into game number 2?
They need to hit the smite that time. No, I think Tian just needs to chill out a little bit. I like to tell teams that when they go into champion select, especially when things are loading up, and I believe Como was also famous of doing this, is he basically goes down the line to every single player, and he basically tells them or reminds them what their responsibility is to the team and to the game. Like, oh, level 3, you're strong, and remember that we can gank at level 6, and this is our core champion. Just a friendly reminder of, hey, what's your game plan from minute 1? Don't forget that and follow that through, because I think that's where the thread kind of got lost.
I mean, were you watching the NALCS this morning where we had the listen in with Reaper from Cloud9, where he went down the line, did something a little bit different though. He was making sure that his players' brains were working, if I'm not mistaken. Is that something that needs to do with Tian though, after his very early level 1
I would
invade?
just kind of wake him up a little bit. I think there was a bit of a questionable call, and unfortunately his mid laner was really the person who paid the price for that. But it's not just Tian. I know it feels like we're picking on him. Emelec, she has been just as guilty of that. So from the veterans to the newbies.
But that was just game number 1 of a best of 3 series. We're going to go into a break, but we'll be back with game 2 shortly.